All right, and we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Canucklehead Show, episode 11 here today. And my name is Frankie, and I'm from the New West Reset channel.
And I'm Chris from Old World Exploration coming at you on a Sunday morning where I am.
Yes, Sunday morning, the morning edition here on this Sunday, April the 28th.
Yeah.
So how you doing there, buddy?
Doing all right. Rolling along here in spring. Everything's greening up now, so yeah, it should be good moving forward. We'll see.
Yeah, spring is finally well, for those of you who are unfamiliar with us, we're both Canadians, eh? Hence the show and all that. So spring comes a little late around these here parts, especially with both of us living. Well, Chris basically lives in the BC mountains, mountain town, and I live just on the eastern slopes of the mountains. So higher elevations and slightly cooler temperatures. So spring comes more around May or June, more often than March or April, right?
Yeah, we don't seed our gardens here till May long. That's a typical rule of thumb for a long time here.
Oh yeah, there's a saying around here: you don't go camping before May long. You don't plant your garden or put your tomatoes out before May long, because we're gonna get a snowstorm or something.
Yeah, a frost.
Yeah, frost or hail.
Yeah, yeah.
So as mentioned, the Canucklehead Show, episode 11 here today. We're going to be looking at Nelson, British Columbia, and a few other close by neighboring communities, but an interesting little town. Speaking of mountain towns, they're in the Kootenays, along the lake and the river that's there.
Yeah, one neither of us has been to, surprisingly. I mean, you kind of got to be going there to go there. It's not something you pass through, really.
So. Right. It almost seems like a little destination town. It's not really a place that, I drive through there on my way to such and such. Not really, unless you're an avid skier or you're a lumberjack.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or a miner 120 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Or a miner. Yeah, which is kind of we'll get into it here, but that's kind of the history of how the whole place started. Yeah. But as mentioned, we're Canadians, but not everybody watching is. So say hello in the chat and let us know where you're coming in from. We've got quite a few already here. Whiskey Pete is here.
Yeah.
Yeehaw! That's right. He's raring to go over there. Old Whiskey Pete. Terry Light is here as well. Good to see you, Terry. Hello. Von Krieger. Ulanor. Von Krieger, howdy. Castle in the Pasture. I dig that. That's a cool handle.
Yeah, that's welcome. John Butler. He did a book on his local courthouse. So nice to see you in there, John.
Speaking of books, I gifted your first edition of your first book to my buddy Vincent. I call him Cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
And he loved it. And then he put it, of course, on his coffee table, and he had some friends over, and he said that there was your book blew a normie's mind.
That's the idea. Right on.
So yeah, there you go. Hey, look at this. Our melted reality. Hello. Good to see you, sir. Good to see you. Phil Henry's in the box as well. Good to see you, Phil. Hello. Neural Mass and Old World, Michigan. Great friends of the channels. I think Johan. Yeah, there's Johan. Hello. So thank you, everybody, tuning in simultaneously, as usual, broadcasting on Old World Exploration, Chris's channel, and my channel, New West Reset. And I'm also going on the Rumble as well. I like the Rumble.
Yeah.
I like them over there. They're good.
I don't have it set up to broadcast simultaneously for me. It's kind of like didn't work for whatever reason, but I put a lot of my videos out on the Rumble as well.
You know what? I found that it was a little hinky at first, but they've changed it. They've made it a little bit easier to set it up. So I find that now it's, I don't know. It's just, it's, you set it up once and basically all you have to do is copy and paste and bada boom, bada bing, and Bob's your uncle.
Aren't you over on BitChute too?
Yep. BitChute, Rumble. Yeah.
Look, normies don't even know what those things are, especially BitChute.
And it's a great bunch over both on Rumble and BitChute.
Sure. I bet.
And I've started them late. I mean, my channel's coming up on 3 years old, I believe, already. But I've only been BitChute and Rumble for, I think, a year. And already 60 plus subscribers on each platform, which is great,
Yeah, I probably stay away from YouTube as well. People.
Yeah. Some it's both, right? It's some of my friends of the channel that are on YouTube that have followed me over on those platforms, but it's just people that just want to stay away from the larger platforms, and they want to they stay away from the YouTube for whatever reason, right? So yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, it's certainly worth checking out. Links, by the way, for everything in the description below. So as Gregory's jumping in, hello, Gregory. Yippee-ki-yay from the USA.
Yeah. Well put.
Well, right back at you from Canada land, or China, as a lot of people call it.
Yeah.
Here we go already with the political rhetoric. But anyways,
we best be careful, Frankie. We best be careful.
That's right. We're just a couple of Canuckleheads having fun up here, right? Jeez,
we're goofing.
Don't want to get too carried away.
We're just goofing.
But I got a little surprise for you, Chris. Did you know that the end of April, which is where we're at right now, is the 1-year anniversary of our first Canucklehead show?
No.
Episode number 1 was April of 2023.
Wow. A year we've been doing this. We're getting old.
We've been goofing around with this shenanigans for a year.
What did we cover on our first one? Do you remember?
That's a good question. I do
not. Put you on the spot. Yeah.
Just throwing me under the bus.
I'll do it. I'll look.
I honestly don't remember. But that was kind of the first time that we had really spoken, although we had communicated prior to that, just to kind of set up and hammer out a time and stuff. And I got to say, in the last year, it's been a blast getting to know you and goofing around with this show and sharing ideas and sharing the research. And you've become a great friend, and I really appreciate meeting you. So happy anniversary to you, buddy.
Happy anniversary. Cheers.
I was going to send you a cake, but instead I think I'll send you a donut, an anniversary donut.
Sounds like a plan. From Timmy's?
I'll throw it in a box and send to Canada Post, so you should get it in like 22 days, eh?
Still be good?
Well, it'll be as fresh as you get them at Timmy's these days.
Yeah.
Tim Hortons, by the way, for those of you that are like, what is a Timmy exactly?
Yeah.
No, it's not Timmer from South Park. Different Timmy.
Yeah, we have Timmy's is like on every corner, and we must have like 11 here in my local town of 100,000 people. Everybody's getting coffee and donuts every day during work.
Right. Yeah, you're standing on a street corner, right? A 4-corner intersection, and you're staring at a Timmy's while you're waiting to cross the street. Let's say you're waiting for the light to change so you can cross. And as you're staring at the Timmy's, you think to yourself, now, if I turn around and do a 180, there couldn't possibly be another Tim Hortons donut shop right behind me. But you turn and look, and there it is. It's like Starbucks in the U.S. It's, but they're everywhere.
Not so uppity, though, like Starbucks is.
No, I just mean in terms of how many there are.
I know. I just wanted to clarify that, though.
But yes.
More working class. Right?
A little bit more blue-collar Canadian style, eh? Where you just walk in, and sometimes they're like, oh, here comes Jim. We know exactly what he likes. He likes an extra large double with a apple fritter.
That's right.
And they get it ready for you. And you walk up, and all you have to do is say, good morning. And good morning, Jim. Here's your order. Here's your regular order, Jim. Enjoy your donut, eh?
Yeah. Our first exploration was Winnipeg, by the way. I looked it up.
Oh, of course it had to be. Canada's most underrated old world, glorious, former glory city.
Yeah.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Rusty Shackelford saying Canada's riddled with old world buildings in Toronto. Yeah, the East most especially, but You'll be surprised, Rusty, at what you would find in some obscure little prairie town or mountain town or northern Saskatchewan town where you're like, wait, what? What's that
Hmm.
doing there?
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see some of that today.
Yeah. Very strange location.
So if you haven't already, consider giving a couple of fellows a thumbs up here. There's 39 of you watching between the two channels and over on the Rumble. So thank you. 40 now. Look at that. So fantastic. Thank you. That's pretty good considering it's a Sunday morning.
Hmm.
So welcome to Canuckleheads Church, I guess.
Church. Yes. Sunday church. Old
Yeah.
world church.
So what do you say we show the folks on the goggle maps here exactly where we're talking about? Because we had said it's pretty far removed from any major center.
What do you mean you don't think they know where Nelson, BC is?
Heck, I barely know where it is.
Yeah, let's get that map up.
I'm like I was saying, I was pretty sure I'd driven, like I'd actually, excuse me, I'd never actually gone to visit Nelson, I don't think. Not in recent memory, not that I can recollect anyways. But I was pretty sure I'd driven past it or driven through it. But after looking at it on the goggle here, which I'll share, I don't think so. I don't think I have.
No.
So there's beautiful Canada land here. She's a beauty, eh? So we're looking in British Columbia. That's Chris, Old World Exploration. That's his stomping grounds.
Yeah.
I use the globe model because it allows you to do the 3D there, eh? Which I like, because then you can get angles on stuff. But here it is right here. So very close to the Alberta, BC border, very close to the American border of Washington State and Oregon. And it's right on the Kootenay River, just off of the Kootenay Lake, right here.
Yeah. That's Idaho, isn't it? Below it? Sorry. Washington.
Washington and Idaho. Yeah.
Yeah.
Idaho here, Washington here. Montana's right there.
Mm-hmm.
Where we got the cowboys, just like here in Alberta, Purdy, Alberta. But it's a lovely little mountain town. But as you can see, it's off the beaten path. I mean, there's no major, like Revelstoke, Kamloops, and Kelowna and Penticton. They're way over here. I mean, you're cruising through major Rocky Mountains to get here.
Oh yeah, very mountainous in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Skiers and snowboarders love that area.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, there's tons of ski hills. I mean, you can see just when we're looking at it on the maps app there, it's snow-covered mountains right until the height of summer. A lot of those mountains don't lose their snow until July or August.
Mm-hmm.
So hello, Mary. Hello. Good to see you. Kathy's here as well.
Hey, Kathy.
So I kind of looked into this place because I thought, well, how did this even come to be if it's just kind of out in the middle of nowhere? So let's quickly look at the Wikipedia. See what the official story tells us anyways. It's always good for shits and giggles.
Yep.
Nelson, British Columbia. Oh, man. Amateur hour. Here we go. It's all right. So it's a city located in the Selkirk Mountains on the west arm of Kootenay Lake in southern interior British Columbia, Canada. Known as the Queen City.
Yeah, weird.
Right? So, which is strange because isn't Victoria, British Columbia, also known as the Queen City?
Yeah, that's odd for sure.
It's acknowledged for its impressive collection of restored heritage buildings from its glory days in a regional silver rush, not gold rush now, mind you, silver. Mm-hmm. Nelson is one of the three cities forming the commercial and population core of the West Kootenay region, the others being Castlegar and Trail, which are actually even smaller than Nelson. The city is the seat of, the government, yada, 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 so on and so forth. Founding. Why do I keep doing that? Sorry, folks. It's early for a guy here in the morning, eh? Not really. I've been up since 6, and it's 9, so No excuse. The Western Kootenay region of British Columbia, where the city of Nelson is situated, is part of the traditional territories of the Sinnet, or Lakes, and
Good luck.
Tanaxa,
Good.
the
Well done.
Tanaxa peoples,
Wow.
which is the Kootenay peoples, hence the name Kootenay.
18.
Gold and silver were found in the area in 1867. That's going back a ways.
Isn't that the year of Confederation for Canada?
Oddly enough, yes, that's when Canada became Canada, 1867.
Well, what do you know?
Following the discovery of silver at the nearby Toad Mountain in 1886, town's population grew quickly, leading to incorporation in 1897. 2 railways were built to pass through Nelson due to its location near transportation corridors. In other words, the river, right? So they could just build a railroad to follow along the river. Nelson grew to supply the local mining activity and soon became a transportation and distribution center for the region. It was named in 1888 after Hugh Nelson, the Lieutenant Governor of BC.
Ah, good old Hugh.
Yes, I thought it was named after Lord Nelson.
Maybe he is Lord Hugh Nelson. Oh, no, you're talking about a different person.
Yeah, there's the Lord Nelson who was in the British Navy in the 1800s, won lots of battles and so on. So this guy could be Sir Nelson, maybe. Maybe he was knighted. I don't know. A lot of old-timey Canadian politicians are Sir so-and-so.
Especially if he was Lieutenant Governor of the province. They usually all get their accreditation.
Right. That's true. So this Francis Rattenbury is the architect most noted in British Columbia for the Parliament buildings in Victoria, the Vancouver Provincial Courthouse, and the second Hotel Vancouver, of which there was, 5 versions or 4 or something?
Yeah, I'm going to get into Rattenbury a little bit in my segment, so yeah.
Nice. He designed chateau-style civic buildings made of granite, which stand today. By the 1900s, Nelson boasted several fine hotels, a Hudson's Bay Company store, and an electric streetcar system. The local forestry and mining industries were well established. So this little mountain town had its own streetcar. And I know this is vague, 1900s, right? Like when? 1999? Like, can you at least narrow down the window to a decade or so?
Yeah, vague.
Now, this was surprising to me. The town built its own hydroelectric generating system. English immigrants planted lakeside orchards, and doukhobors from Russia, sponsored by Tolstoy and the Quakers, tilled the valley benchlands.
That's strange.
The doukhobor Museum is located nearby, close to the neighboring town of Castlegar.
I always thought doukhobors on the prairies in Canada. I never really thought of them in BC.
Yeah, apparently some of them did make their way. They dared to venture through the mountain passes.
That's a bit of a mishmash, though, isn't it? The English are planting orchards, and the doukhobors are,
are becoming farmers.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, very, very strange. Nelson from 1917 to 1920 used single transferable vote, proportional representation, yada, yada, yada. Okay, during the Vietnam War, yada. Okay, here we go. Baker Street. In the early 1980s, Nelson suffered a devastating economic downturn when the local Kootenay Forest Products sawmill was closed.
Yes.
Perfect way to kill a small mountain town. Just shut down the sawmill that's been here for 100 years.
And everybody works at.
Yeah, that 80% of the town would work at, right? Dirty bastards. Downtown merchants were already suffering from the opening of a large regional shopping center on Nelson's central waterfront. Oh, of course, that too. Victoria and Vancouver were experimenting with historical restorations of their oldest areas with some success. So save downtown and Baker Street from blight. Nelson quickly followed suit, stripping aluminum facades and restoring the buildings to their original brilliance. So tearing off the brutalism to expose the old world structure underneath. I love that, by the way.
Much obliged. Great. Yeah, much obliged. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Instead of knocking them down with wrecking balls or what have you. Very good. Excellent. So quickly, local designer Bob Inwood, one of Nelson's many American immigrants, played a significant role as a consultant. Why do they have Steve Martin there?
Steve Martin, yeah.
Oh, yeah, because the movie Roxanne was filmed in Nelson. That's right. using their local fire hall.
Mm.
So yeah, very interesting. I've got another.
Do we have a rough population there? I've noticed.
You know what? I tried Googling, the population sort of demographics.
Yeah.
Where it's because I don't know.
You mean
Wikipedia's
historical?
Yeah, the historical population growth.
Yeah.
Almost every Wikipedia's gotten bad for that. I've noticed.
Well, yeah.
Almost every Wikipedia page for a town or city would show, their census every 5 years, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
1890 to let's say 2002 or 2010 or whatever, and they rarely do now.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. The historical population's hard to get on a lot of these more remote, especially Canadian. American ones seem to still be there, but Canadian ones we can't go back and look. That's interesting. But modern day 11,000 though.
Yeah, yeah. It's a small city.
Yeah.
I think on this other website here, History of Nelson, BC, which is the City of Nelson website. Again, links in the description.
Mm-hmm.
I think they talk a little bit about some of the early population in significant years. Now, I sort of get it, right? Like if it's a small little Canadian town, I get why they may not include that population growth table or chart on the Wikipedia page. But if it's a significantly historical city like Nelson seems to be, or at least the narrative they're pushing, you'd think it would have some of that info. But okay, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So a brief history of Nelson. This is on nelson.ca. In August 1886, a group led by two brothers, Osner and Winslow Hall.
I love those names.
This is my brother Osner. You can just call him Ozzy.
That's right. Yeah.
Mr. Beast fans here. Yes, Canuckleheads time. Yeah. Fantastic. The 1-year anniversary of Canuckleheads, by the way. So thanks for joining us. So they left Colville, Washington.
Hey, Frankie, you missed Old World Mi'kmaq is in there too.
Did I? Oh, geez.
Don't want to leave him out.
There we go. Quainidap. Good to see you. Old World Mi'kmaq, old friend.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no worries. Gotta give a shout out to our buddy. So they left Colville, Washington, looking for gold, and somehow they ended up in what is now Nelson. Just go for a walk. Hey, what's over there? Over where? Oh, over 3 mountain ranges. Oh, let's walk over there and have a look, eh?
A hop, skip, and a jump.
Sure, just as the crow flies. Not a problem for a couple of prospectors, I guess. I don't know. With no luck and dampened spirits, though, you see. Yeah. So while the young men of the party were fetching horses for the trip home, they found a copper-silver deposit, which began the rush to Toad Mountain and the establishment of Nelson, the Queen City of the Kootenays. So just like that, well, we best fetch the horses there, Aussie. Oh, you got that right, Winslow. And then, oh, look, our horses pawing at the ground to munch on some grass have found this copper-silver deposit.
It ain't gold, but it's close.
Close enough.
They were looking for gold, right?
I guess we'll stake a claim. It's weird, right? Gold, silver, and, well, bronze, copper, close enough. It's like first place, second place, third place.
Yeah.
So they didn't win the gold, but they got second and third place. So at least they're on the podium, I guess, eh?
That's right.
Which is what a lot of Canadians say during the Olympics. Well, at least we got on the podium this time, eh?
Or close. Yeah.
Except for the gold in hockey. If we don't win that, oh man, riots in the streets from coast to coast to coast in Canadian land.
That's right.
By the winter of 1887, between 300 and 400 people had set up tents along Ward Creek, which is now the center of Nelson. So there you go. 1887, 300 people. 1888, 400 people. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt there.
But it's not much.
Not much. I mean, and they set up tents, apparently.
I'd like to see a picture of that. I guess there wasn't anyone with a camera there yet.
No, even though there was cameras long since by then already. You think you would be pretty psyched about finding your silver and copper deposit and snap a few shots. Aussie with Winslow standing in front of their claim, and then Winsey taking a shot of Aussie. I don't know. Just saying.
Whimsy. Yeah.
Okay, so GM Sproul, gold
Sproul.
commissioner and magistrate, laid out the government town site, which he named Stanley after Lord Stanley.
Was that Lord Stanley's bug?
Maybe there was my confusion. Lord Nelson, Lord Stanley, Canada's Governor General. But there was an argument about the name from Harry Anderson, mining recorder and constable, who had already named the town site Salisbury.
Salisbury? What?
Just like those delicious steaks.
Yeah, the ground beef steak.
That's right. That's right.
You guys know what Salisbury steak is? Does everyone in the chat know what Salisbury steak is? It's a fixture in the truck stops up in these parts.
Yeah. It's a fixture in the, not that I would ever throw one down my eating hole, but
come on.
The Hungry Man dinners have a Salisbury steak dinner. I would not recommend eating those Hungry Man Swanson frozen TV dinners, by the way. They're terrible. I know. I work at a grocery store. Just go 2 aisles over and buy the fresh stuff, eh? But they got into a fight because at first they wanted to name it Stanley. No, I already named it Salisbury. I'll tell you what, let's settle on Nelson then.
Yeah.
Which is just really weird.
Third choice, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. So at least they got on the podium again, eh?
Yeah, third place.
So tents gave way to shake and log shacks. Until lumber began to be produced in 1889.
Okay.
By the G.O. Buchanan Mill, frame buildings began to proliferate the town site, and the milled lumber supplied timbers for the area's hard rock mine tunnels. Lumbering overtook mining as the main industry and remains important today. In 1895, 4.5-mile gravity-operated aerial tramway was constructed from the mine to a smelter site in the Rosemont area of Nelson. It's basically like a ski lift type of gondola tramway where they would load carts, almost like coal carts, but without wheels on them. And then instead of sending them down a rail track, they sent them down cables. Very interesting, very unique. So they carried a total of 10 tons of ore to the smelter. And by 1894, Nelson was served by 2 railroads, the Columbia and the Kootenai.
That was
and
quick.
The Nelson and Ford Shepherd.
So we're going from tent city to 2 railways within 5 years.
Yeah, pretty amazing, isn't it? Where and how did all these people get out through the mountains before the railway went through, by the way? Hard to say. And even taking the railroad out there, it's not exactly like it's a 2-hour trip from a major city. I mean, we've seen from the Goggle maps, it's out in the middle of nowhere.
They literally caught wind of it.
That's right.
They heard a whisper on the wind, I guess, and then 400 people made their way.
You know, I heard there's a couple of brothers that found some silver when they were looking for gold from Washington.
Wasn't that Ozzy and Winsey?
I think so. Let's go see what those fellers are up to up there.
It's not gold, but it's close. It's close.
So there are 2 railroads. One was a standard gauge, and the other was the Columbia and Kootenai was a standard gauge. And the Nelson and Fort Shepherd was the narrow gauge. They both served passenger rail service, but the Nelson and Fort Shepherd also was the sort of logging and mining railroad as well. Yeah, Maxwell Smart is losing his marbles there in the chat. Not 1, but 2 rail race. Balderdash.
Balderdash. Absolutely. Yeah.
How can Canada be 100 years behind the foundation of USA? Well, I mean, just in terms of it being officially known as Canada as a quote-unquote independent nation. Yeah. But, I mean, you know, Canada had been settled by French and British settlers, so we've heard since, you know, the 1620s.
Yeah, this is the Western narrative too, which actually mirrors a lot of the Western United States timeline.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of similarities to, you know, California,
Washington State,
Washington, Oregon, like sort of the Pacific Northwest in general, but also some of the high desert regions in and around, you know, like Utah and Nevada as well, right? Just in terms of the gold and the mining. Well, yeah, that's why, because it took 100 years to thaw.
Took a while for that ice to melt. Those ice caps.
My pal Bill is here. William Pals, hello. Good to see you. So the city of Nelson was incorporated March 4th, 1897. There we go, with a population of 3,000. There's that lucky. Once you hit that 3,000, boy, then you can become a town or incorporate your town. That's the magic number.
Have we started the stone and brick structures at this point, or are we still with the lumber shacks?
By about 19, well, they say the 1900s, sort of 19. Where is it here? Well, they started the gasworks in 1900. The electric tram in 1899. Electric tram. So their streetcar service started before 1900.
So they went again from a tent city. 10 years later, we have an electric tramway company in the streets of Nelson, BC.
That's right.
Wowzers.
Well, in 1897, with that population of 3,000, they had many fine homes and stores, hotels, plural, churches, plural, a school, a hospital, a jail, a fire hall, a courthouse, a water company, and the first hydroelectric generating plant in the entire province of British Columbia.
That's a lot going on in 10 years.
And British Columbia is a big province. Bigger than Alberta. And Alberta's the size of Texas.
That's a nice little timeline you got going here. This is very enlightening on the region.
It's crazy, right?
It is.
And then they go on to a little bit more modern stuff here that we really need not concern ourselves with. There's some other stuff further up in the article, but I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag with some spoilers because it's stuff we're going to get into here.
Okay, so just to reiterate, in August 1886, we have Osner and Winslow discovering the region.
Yep, two brothers that were looking for gold in Washington ended up finding silver in British Columbia.
And by 1899, which is 13 years later, we've got 3,000 people and electric tramways in the streets.
That's correct.
Good Lord. How is that possible?
That is correct. So aside from the silver and the beautiful mountainous, picturesque scenery, what do you think Nelson is famous for, Chris? And in the chat too, I'll pose the question to everybody in the chat as well. By the way, 72 of you watching between the two channels and over on Rumble. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you joining us here for this Sunday morning edition of the Canuckleheads.
As we like to say, church, old world church.
Yeah, old world church time. We'll pass around the plate later, eh?
Yeah, that's right.
We'll have to sing a few songs first, and then we'll pass around the plate.
And you're gonna have to do a British accent for us.
Well, yeah, because you got a lot of lords, Lord Nelson and Lord this guy, Lord that guy. It's the Queen City, right? So you probably got to bust out the Queen Victoria impression.
I think so. Yeah, it's very royal feeling. Yeah,
indeed. Which is weird because you think they would try to push some kind of gold narrative with it being royal, but I guess, well, again, at least we got on the podium with the silver, eh?
Close enough. So
we got a few guesses here. Hot Springs. Good guess.
I was going to say Sasquatch.
Oh, there you go. Arches and Columns is there. Good to see you. Welcome. Heathcliff in the chat as well. Lord Stanley's Cup. Yes, that's right. Alberta, eh? Albert, eh? Oh, that's how we spell Canada up here. C-A-N-A-D-A.
That's a good one.
All right, so a couple of good guesses there. There are hot springs nearby. Yes, sacred for the First Nations as well. Absolutely. This random voice, and of course, Old World Mi'kmaq would be familiar with that. Although Old World Mi'kmaq being, Mi'kmaq is from the East Coast, but you get what I'm saying. But no, of course, would you have guessed ghosts? They're ghosts, the hauntings.
Really?
The old buildings are all haunted, Chris.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
We've never heard that before. What? Old world buildings are haunted?
Stay away. Steer clear.
Yeah. So again, what's your philosophy on that? Is it's kind of a misdirect, right?
Yeah, I think it's a way to keep people afraid of exploring it. Really, maybe.
Or saying you can explore, but it'll be a tour, a ghost walk tour.
Yeah, let's focus on the ghost that haunts this region and not the way this building is put together and when it was put together and all the rest of that. Yeah, I think there's something
Right,
to it.
and how we went from tents and stick houses to glorious old world structures in 11 years or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I won't get too much into the article because I did link it below, but, according to some Nelson residents, there's a plethora, if you will,
Mm.
of supernatural spirits sharing our space in the Kootenays. Again, that's that river and lake where town of Nelson or city of Nelson is right on the Kootenay River. And that's not necessarily something that should concern you.
That's a
Though
funny.
there are occasional reports of a spine-chilling variety, the vast majority of these effervescent, ghostly souls are entirely harmless. Okay. I've never heard ghost activity referred to as effervescent.
Very creative writer, right? Whoever's writing this, the Nelson Star, whoever.
Like effervescent is like, a glass of Canada Dry ginger ale. We're not
Canada Dry.
sponsored by any of these products I'm mentioning, by the way. I just like the fact that it has Canada in the title there, eh? Because if you're going to drink ginger ale, Schweppes, take off. It's Canada Dry all the way.
Canada Dry. Yeah, if you're sick, you're feeling under the weather, Mom will pour you a glass of Canada Dry up here.
Yeah, it'll settle your yucky stomach. Yeah. So yeah, there's the ghosts, but there was something that I found in the history of Nelson, because we talk about a lot the whether it's a major metropolitan center, pretty much anywhere in the realm. I mean, we tend to focus on this show in Canada, but you could be talking about anywhere in the UK or in the US or Europe or elsewhere in the realm. We always talk about the Great Fires.
Mm.
And it doesn't necessarily even have to be a big city. It could be a town of 3,000 people or 1,500 people, and they've had some great fire in the 1880s or 1890s or maybe pre-1920, in and around there, that destroys half their downtown. And oh my goodness, and it destroyed all the records and half these buildings, and we got to rebuild, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nelson's a little different.
Hmm.
And this is new to me. I can't wait to share this because I was like,
you're making me wait here. The anticipation. Whew.
This is from KootenayHistory.com, and it's the story of the Nelson Firebug.
Hmm.
So you got to hand it to the tenacity of the Nelsonians that they wouldn't let their town get burnt down.
Hmm.
So the greatest danger facing any pioneer community in BC interior is fire. In the 20 years since its beginnings as a mining camp in 1890, Nelson had escaped the fate of several other Kootenay towns. Sandon in 1900 and Rossland in 1902, both severely damaged by fires, of course. Hardest hit was Fernie, which is a beautiful little mountain town, major ski resort.
Yeah.
It suffered 3 devastating fires.
3?
Culminating in the 1908 conflagration, which completely destroyed the city in only 90 minutes.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Gonna have to look into Fernie at some point, I think.
Yeah.
From Nelson's earliest days under the leadership of J. Fred Hume, a prominent merchant and member of the Legislative Assembly, from 1894 to 1898, concerned residents formed a volunteer fire brigade or fire department. Following incorporation in 1897, Mayor John Houston's new city council enacted a bylaw requiring all new construction in the downtown core to erect brick firewalls between buildings.
That's a heads-up move right there.
That's a nice way of covering up later on in the fact that once we remove this ugly, brutalist facading in the 1980s to reclaim our beautiful old world buildings, that'll explain away why there's brick there.
No, this guy was just way ahead of the curve. It was a heads up move by Mr.
I think this town might burn down, so we better put some brick here.
Yeah.
What makes you say that, Mayor? Just a feeling. Just a funny feeling a fella's got.
Hey, Morty Pants.
That doesn't make any sense, but you're right. It's like he was clairvoyant. Just to be on the safe side. By the summer of 1911, the city had gone further than any of its neighbors, having created a professional fire department with the most up-to-date equipment and infrastructure available. Just out of the blue. It's this little mountain town. With wagons and horse teams ready at a moment's notice. They had a network of water mains and fire hydrants crisscrossing the city, as well as a modern system of electrical call boxes scattered inside and outside the city limits. They had electric telephones outside the city.
So
if you're just going for a hike somewhere, or I don't know, you're a lumberjack or a miner, and you spot some smoke. Well, you could just pick up the phone there. I don't know, nailed to the side of a tree or something.
Yeah. This is just over 20 years from Tent City.
Yeah. Yep. 24 years.
All connected to the fire hall.
All connected to the fire department at Victoria and Josephine, the site of the present-day Kootenay Studios, Studio Arts. Yeah, that's the other thing Kootenay's famous for, or Nelson's famous for, is a lot of artists, young artists.
Yeah.
Pick up the Fernie phone. Nevertheless, the wholesale district, along with waterfront with its wood frame warehouses and lumber yards, the adjacent Chinatown and red light district on Lake Street, the retail stores and small houses of the working families, the hotels and boarding houses of the hundreds of single men in from the lumber camps and mines, all bone dry frame buildings jumbled together. The city was constantly on the brink of disaster, especially toward the end of a long, dry summer. All this was cause for constant vigilance, but not undue concern until the last 2 weeks of August 1911. It became apparent the city had a firebug in its midst.
Oh, my.
So 11 p.m. Thursday, a fire spotted in the Yale lumber yards, quickly extinguished. Fireman finds a discarded box of matches and a broken piece of candle. The next day, on Lake Street, a second fire is discovered and put out. Shortly afterwards, Indar Singh is wrestled to the ground by a Japanese woman using the silent art of jiu-jitsu after he was seen leaving an alley.
This
he
is
claimed
good.
he had just gone to take a leak, eh? He's placed under arrest.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I was going to say you can't make this up, but apparently you can, because somebody made this.
Somebody appears to have made something up.
Then the very next day, another fire beneath the wooden sidewalk only a block away. Day
Wooden
after that,
sidewalk.
a basement of a house on Lake Street.
Basement, of course.
Yeah. Then the next day, between two houses near the corner of Lake and Hall. These are street names, obviously. Then the next day, yet another incendiary attack against a residence on Lake Street occurred late last night. The sixth such attack since Thursday last. Although the blaze was quickly extinguished, it was identified as the work of the firebug by several distinguishing features. The attacks took place in the neighborhood of Hall and Lake Streets, occurred between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., and were started by placing a burning candle in a pile of shavings near a wall or fence, thereby allowing time for his escape before alarm is given.
That's how they knew it was the firebug, eh? It was the trademark?
That's his MO, is the candle. That's his signature.
Oh, man, this is great. Wow.
Oh, give me a break.
This is gold, man. Where'd you find this? You were nice find.
When I saw the Nelson Firebug thing, and I'm like, wait, Nelson Firebug? Oh, they must have had a great fire. Nope. Somebody tried like hell to give him a great fire, my friend, but nope.
Everybody else in the region did, but not Nelson.
Just saw a question here in the chat. Where was it now? Oh, here we go. From Richard Morgan. Hey, I was wondering, where about in America are you from, bud? I'm in Scotland.
Oh, boy.
We are in North America. We're in Canada. So where are the filthy colonies, you see? Yeah. British Commonwealth of Canada. Chris at Old World Exploration is in British Columbia. And I am in Alberta. Yeah, that's right, Robert. I'm a fire starter. What is that? What's that band?
Prodigy.
Prodigy. There you go. Not much of a hard rock guy. Being Canadian, I listened to a lot of Anne Murray. Nope, that's not true at all.
Oh, I hope that's not true, or I'm signing off right now.
I do not. I do not. But I do remember that she had the Anne Murray show in the 70s when I was a kid on the CBC.
That
Kind of
before
like
my time.
the Tommy Hunter show here in Canada, also on the CBC. Government funded television and all that. Okay, the very next day, a fire in the barn of a Chinese fruit ranch on Maple Street is spotted by a streetcar conductor who gives the alarm. The firebug burns ranch building. The loss included a number of pigs, which were roasted to death, and some chickens.
That
Oh,
sounds
man.
delicious.
The whole town smelled like bacon for about 4 days. We're like, God, I'm hungry. You guys want to get a BLT or something?
Oh, man.
I don't know why, but I got a hankering for either a BLT or a club, something with chicken and bacon in it. A bacon and chicken Caesar salad, something.
So the problem I have with these write-ups, Frankie, is that the detail, the level of detail is like over the top too much. You know what I mean?
Well, it's that same old story that you've pointed out many times, not only on our show, but on your channel, where it's either super detailed, like let's say they're talking about a specific story, like this with the Nelson Firebug.
Yeah.
So one particular aspect, they'll be over the top, super duper, overly detailed. But then when they're talking about the same event, other parts of it are so vague that you're like, wait, what? Like, how can you expand on one but not the other? Like, what's going on
here?
So yeah, you're right. A community cookout, fabulous.
It does sound delicious.
Sounds good. Get some
no offense to the vegetarians out there. I know,
get some maple glaze going on those roast pigs. Now we're in business.
You do you.
Where are we at here? Well, I mean, there was the Chinese fruit barn that burned down, so there's a little something for the vegetarians there. The heat and the glare of the flames seem to have a fearful attraction for the birds, and many of them, before they were reached by the flames, rushed into the blaze and shriveled up before the eyes of the bystanders, who apparently just stood by and let chickens run madly into the fire.
That's strange.
Nobody stopped and thought to think for themselves for a second, we better try to at least prevent this chicken farmer's chickens from running into the flames. I've never heard of that, by the way.
No. Why would you? Why would anybody run toward the flames? Any animal that goes against any sort of instinct they might have.
Right? We've all seen the forest fire scene in Bambi, for crying out loud. They're all running from the fire.
A fearful attraction.
Yeah, they were fearfully attracted to the flames. I don't want to do it, but I'm compelled to.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. So now we're on to the same day, August 23rd. Attempt made to burn the fire hall. Look, this firebug was so mad that the fire department was so on point with putting out his fires that he said, "The hell with you! I'm going to try to burn down the fire hall."
That's greatest adversary, right?
Yeah. So he set the tool shed behind the fire hall on fire, and it was destroyed. And then he took a day off. And then he tries to burn down City Hall. A wooden fence behind the building was set alight. Dark figure was seen fleeing the scene. Then he took about a week off to try to, I don't know, gather up the. He was so despondent at his failures.
The heat was on him, so he had to lay low for a couple of days.
Yeah, he had to lay low in Nelson, in one of the buildings that he couldn't burn down. So August 30th. This fire discovered in a lumber yard on Vernon Street. Firebug still in Nelson. That fire was of incendiary origin. Appears to be certain, and the police are still keeping a lookout for suspicious characters. Their work is being supplemented by a number of special watchmen hired by the city and individuals. So they basically had to hire like a neighborhood watch program to help the cops because this guy was such a thorn in their side.
I just want to interject here, Frankie, because I had a comment on my channel recently talking about how primary sources are the best way to find out what happened in the past. People coming at me for questioning the narrative. This would be a primary source. This would be the local newspaper, right, from that time.
That's right. Yes.
So we're questioning these primary sources in this field of research. Just to be clear, for anyone who's new to this who doesn't know what's going on, the absurdity of what we're reading right now
Yes,
is ridiculous. I don't know. So I just want to
I
throw that
agree.
in there.
I agree. With such a beefed up fire prevention program with this early boom town, for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
there seems to be a lot of problems with fire. And now, mind you, they are, by this story, managing to nip most of it in the bud, but still,
Mm-hmm.
it seems so strange that they had this huge firefighting infrastructure set up just in time for this Nelson Firebug to show up on the scene. And had it been the other way around, the whole town would have burnt down. But it's a good thing this mayor had the foresight. So after a preliminary hearing at which police chief C.W. Young was called for the defense, Indar Singh, the guy who was wrestled to the ground by the Japanese lady, who had been sitting in jail during the previous 2 weeks, was finally released. Well, I guess he's accused of being the firebug and the fires are still being lit. Yeah, you should probably let the guy go. By this time, there had been a score of false alarms and over a dozen fires, including 2 which were clearly not arson, a chimney fire, and on the 29th, a smoldering cigar butt, which attracted the crowd of 200 Chinese outside a restaurant.
What?
200 Chinese, only Chinese, I guess. Other people couldn't be interested.
That's odd.
Very strange. And it's like, why are they making the distinction, by the way? A Japanese lady, some Chinese. Yeah. Anyway, night after night, hired watchmen and self-appointed vigilantes like the Batman. I'm Batman. I'm Nelson, man. Patrolled the dark streets and alleys as searchlights from the streamers tied up along waterfront swept back and forth, searching for a glimpse of the sinister figure of the firebug, a figure so clearly etched in their imaginations yet never once clearly seen. That's a contradiction. How is it etched so clearly in their imaginations if they hadn't clearly seen him?
Primary sources. Come on, don't question the primary sources.
Right. Sorry, my mistake. Anyway, on one occasion, Special Constable, which is our version of police officers, right? Northwest Mounted Police, Robert C. Brand was showing off his pistol. Because that's what cops should be doing, is waving a gun.
As you do.
He was probably in the local saloon. Hello, lady. You're an attractive looking tomato. You want to see my gun? Shouldn't you be on duty right now? Oh, yeah, he claimed it wasn't loaded. Oh, no, he was showing it off to Mr. Chu, the cafe owner. It went off. Hitting him in the leg.
What kind of police officer is that?
So the fire department's on point, but the cops are bumbling. Is this to try to build the narrative why it took so long to catch this firebug? Because the cops were a bunch of bumbling people that would accidentally shoot Mr. Chu in the leg.
Hence the need for vigilantes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some enthusiastic civilians are making a practice of carrying guns. Well, it's the Wild West, right? If we see a suspect, we'll just shoot him. Uh-oh. We accidentally shot Mr. Chu. This must be stopped at once. If anyone is found down there with a gun in his possession, he shall be summoned for carrying a concealed weapon. It is absolutely necessary for the safety of the public that no one but the police is armed. Well, unless you're going hunting or shooting Chinese cafe owners in the leg.
He's just showing off his pistol.
All right, so quit screwing around here. Where are we here? So September 1st, 1911, an alley above Latimer Street behind the Nelson Brewery, ironically, just up the street from the site recently chosen for the new fire hall. There are no patrols this far up the hill. Here among the respectable houses where the firebug has never struck before. For 15, 20 minutes, the flames go undetected until the entire back wall of the building is a sheet of flame. Finally, from a house across the way, Miss Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, notices a red glare through her parlor window. Fire! The 20-year-old 4-story building is built almost entirely of wood, and now after weeks of perfect cloudless summer weather, is as dry as a stack of kindling. Within minutes of the alarm being given, every hose and wagon in town is on the scene, but it's too late. They never had a chance. With skyward rush of air and a roar that was heard on Baker Street, the flames race up the timber walls and into the red sky. Huge beams crack and crash beneath the weight of the machinery. Glowing, twisted metal plunging into the heart of the flames, billowing clouds of steam rolling through the broken windows and doorways. As the brewery vats split open and hundreds of gallons of beer flowed ineffectually into the fire. Oh,
this is a block party.
Do not talk about wasting beer to a Canadian. That's like sacrilege, eh? It's supposed to be church Sunday here on the show.
Well, we got roasted pigs and we got beer flowing through the streets.
Yeah, it's a block party. All you need is Anne Murray singing a couple of tunes and we got her made.
All right, that's it. I'm out. I'm out.
Sorry. I meant Gordon Lightfoot.
That's better.
Actually, the hip. You get the hip in there.
Oh, yeah. That's a party.
Now we're talking. So the Nelson Brewery basically is the only really major loss with this whole Firebug fiasco. September 2nd, smoking steam from the brewery still drifting gently. This is the next day, by the way, over Latimer Street. Two watchmen nervously patrolled the deserted yards and buildings of the Hall Mines smelter, which looked down on the city from a bluff less than a mile away across Cottonwood Creek. One of them had spotted a fire there that afternoon. Falling silver prices had shut the smelter down for 5 years, but just the week before, a syndicate of businessmen had finalized a $200,000 deal to reopen it. It meant work for a lot of people and the real prospect of Nelson replacing Trail as the smelting center of the Kootenays. But a colossal blaze started by the Nelson Firebug destroyed that smelter. Great. Thanks, buddy.
Who's this Nelson Firebug?
So yeah, the Nelson Firebug. Oh, sorry, here's the wrap up here. September 10th. The police arrested a dapper 24-year-old Englishman, John Bradshaw, on a charge of vagrancy. Of course, damn Englishman.
What's vagrancy?
Being
out in the streets.
Yeah, like homeless, basically, like like John Rambo in First Blood.
Yeah, you're not welcome in these parts. He's a vagrant, backpack.
Yeah. Right? What are you doing in our town? Do you live here? No. You work here? No. Well, then go on now, get, or you'll be under arrest. For what? Yeah. For walking around. Yeah, basically. Where is it? Sorry, there we go. Yeah, Robert's got it. Yeah, basically for being a hobo.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, homeless without money. Sorry, the comments are flying fast and furiously in the chat. 73 of you watching.
Hope you guys are enjoying Frankie's story here. This is like, I'm really enjoying this Firebug story.
Oh yeah, I was laughing my ass off. It was about a week ago when I found this article. I was just skimming through it. I was like, wait, what? Like every 2 minutes, I was basically just saying to myself,
what?
Right?
I don't know. It's just goofy.
Well, that's just silly. Silly, yes. Idiotic, yes.
During questioning, it was established that Bradshaw had been in the Kootenays, either in Nelson or working in lumber and mining camps for the past 2 years. So then how could he be arrested for vagrancy if he had been living and working in these areas? Anyway, okay. Moving on. He expressed resentment against Asians who were taking jobs from white men.
What?
Wow. I'm going to wear out that kid here on the show today. He was also identified as the man who gave the alarm at the Chinese fruit ranch on October 23rd and had been spotted at several other fires. But all this was flimsy and circumstantial evidence. So 8 days later, Bradshaw was released and advised to leave town, which he did. And interestingly, there were no more arson attacks for the rest of the year.
Oh, whoops. Let him go.
Lucky the townfolk with their pistols didn't find him. They would have just shot that guy.
Yeah.
Then there also would have been no more fires for the rest of the year. Of course, I like how they say for the rest of the year, because then the following year, there was tons, I guess. I don't know.
He came back.
But I just found that We're like, what did you think of that? Like, I found that to be
That was fantastic. That's
some of the.
feels like it was written in the last 20 years by some student at one of the universities. Slipped into a made to look like an old newspaper. I don't know. That's crap.
Isn't that
crap.
nuts?
Yeah.
It's like it's goofy to me. I don't know.
Mhm.
Anyway, I got just a couple of quick things here to cover off. A couple of quick more little articles, and then maybe what do you say we take a mid-show break?
Yep.
And then you come back and hammer it home with some glorious photos.
Sure. Sounds like a plan.
Excellent. Excellent. Morgan's here. Isabella live. Good to see you. Hello. Antonio in the box as well. Hello. Hello.
Mhm.
So yeah, I've got, I just wanted to briefly look at, where is it now? The Nelson Electric Tramway.
Yep.
Just real quick, because this is, again, the narrative for Canada, much like the US, where the eastern part of the country is older, and everybody settled and moved westward, right? Go west, young man, and manifest destiny and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's much similar here. So this is very early in the historical narrative to have a fully electric streetcar tram system. So this is, of course, Nelson Electric Tramway on the Wikipedia. 1899, Nelson Electric Tramway Company Limited inaugurated service along Front Street on December 21st. Opening of the hill section was postponed after car 2 derailed, causing injuries. Ooh.
It's a bad time of year.
Still working out the kinks,
Yeah, that must have been a Christmas opening, right? December 21st.
Yeah, I guess. And you're right, bad time to open winter in a mountain town. Yeah, that's when we're going to kick off the electric tram and streetcar.
Snow off the tracks. Get that snow off the tracks.
We won't wait until spring. But the hill section did open in the spring, April 8th, 1900. 1905, the city contracted to operate the systems for 4 years because the company had incurred losses every year. We hear that often with streetcars and trams too, don't we?
Yeah, failed venture.
Yeah.
Fire. We got a fire.
Yeah. 1908, a fire in the substation on April 25th caused extensive damage. A fire in the car barn on the 27th destroyed the building and 2 streetcars. So maybe the Nelson Firebug came back for his revenge.
That's before. This is a couple of years before, I think. Wasn't that 1911?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
This is the early days of the Firebug. This is how he got his start.
This is the prequel. Service was suspended. I should hope so if there's a couple of fires. 1910, newly formed Nelson Street Railway Company reopens the system on November 8th. So again, they haven't learned their lesson and they're opening it in the winter. 1914, the city purchases the system on February 1st because the company had incurred ongoing losses.
Mm-hmm.
And then 1949, which is also kind of early, final run when diesel bells replaced rails in the 20th. More often than not, it's in the early 50s, 51, 52. So 49, a couple of years early. And then there's a bunch here just about, the various owners and sort of the operations and the fleet and how many cars they had and so on and so forth. So link for that in the description as well. And what's this one last one I had here, I believe. Oh, yes, it was about, because I found it shocking and interesting that not only did they have 2 railroads that served Nelson, and that they had a electric streetcar system that early on, but they also had a huge steam-powered paddle boat industry in and around Nelson because of the Kootenai Lake and the Kootenai River.
Yeah, I saw that.
Now, initially, I was kind of surprised, and then I was like, well, wait, of course they would, because the river is deep enough going through there that you can use the steam paddle boats to have access to the beautiful lake that's there, right? So, okay, I'm surprised, but I shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, we're ticking all the boxes, old world boxes here. Steam travel, steamboats, and rail
cars.
Early
electric, early steam power, a goofy fire narrative.
Yeah,
a city or a town seeming to pop up in a handful of years out of nowhere. So this is specifically about the Nasukin, which is this specific paddle boat. But This is Wikipedia. Nasukin was a stern wheel driven, so like the rear paddle boat. Sometimes they had a side paddle, right? But steamboat that operated on Kootenay Lake in British Columbia from 1913 to 1947. So she had a nice run.
Yeah.
Nasukin was one of the largest inland steam vessels ever to operate in British Columbia and the Columbia River, which is the biggest river in BC, if I'm not mistaken. Nasukin became surplus to its original owner, the Canadian Pacific Railway. So, of course, the railway operates their hotels, their trains, but also these steamboats. It was transferred to the British Columbia provincial government, which was used as an auto ferry until 1947. Negligent mooring of the steamer in 1948 led to the irreparable damage to its hull. And it was later scrapped. Portions of the upper works were salvaged and used as a house. Well, at least that's something. The name Nasukin has reported to mean Big Chief. The name was selected by CPR in Montreal on the recommendation of A.D. Wheeler, a steam-paddled wheel boat named after a guy named Wheeler. Of Ainsworth to continue the plan of using First Nations names for all of its steamers on the lake. Yeah, that's right. They named all of CP's fleet of paddle boats used Indigenous First Nations names. So I thought that was really interesting that it was like one of the largest steamboats ever used in all of British Columbia. A huge, massive structure or
we had
vehicle.
That's a part of the story up where I am here too, up in Prince George, the stern whalers coming down the Fraser.
Yeah, because the Fraser River is another huge river.
I was going to interject and say I believe the Fraser might be the largest, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, well, the Fraser is huge. The Columbia is huge. These are major mountain runoff rivers.
Massive watersheds into the ocean.
Yeah. I mean, they're both glacier fed, right? So it's even after the snow has melted off the tops of the mountains, those glaciers remain, right? And they just slowly melt and feed these massive rivers that run their way through the mountains. But because they're deep enough, they could run these massive, well, I mean, these are kind of shallow bottom water vehicles anyways, but still they could operate these huge paddles, right? Look, whenever I see this, I kind of think more Mississippi River, like the Mississippi gambling boats and that sort of thing. Casinos. But it's the exact same idea because these had restaurants and casinos on them, and they had rooms, and they had professional ladies of the evening working the rooms, and they had banquet halls and dance halls and live music and the whole bit. So yeah, very, very interesting. So I quickly grabbed a couple of photos here just real quick, and then we'll take a break. How's that sound? Does that sound okay?
Sure, yeah.
I don't have much. It's just a couple of pictures of the streetcars and trains and a couple of close-ups of these paddle boats just to kind of have a little bit of a better idea of what we're talking about here. Because, you know, a guy loves the trains. I've made no secret of that.
No, yeah, a big train guy.
Love the trains, grew up around trains, still live, you know, like less than 100 yards from the CP rail tracks here. So, and I like the old electric street trams or trolleys as well. And I always get a kick out of the fact that it's, you know, apparently 1899, they got it all wired up. They got this thing good to go for electric streetcar, but it's still dirt roads.
Yeah.
And it almost looks like the wheels have plowed through fresh dirt over the track, because behind this car, it looks like it's freshly kicked up dirt off the track, but ahead of the car, it looks like there's still some
you're right.
dirt on the track. So is this kind of like the first run of the morning fresh commute?
Fresh mud coat.
Fresh coat of mud because it rained the night before or something. I don't know. But this must have been a pain in the ass. You know? But quite substantial sized streetcars for, mind you, this is, you know, we're into the late 30s, early 40s here in some of these photos, but quite large cars servicing still what is a pretty small mountain town at this point.
Well,
hey, look, there's a dance at Eagle Hall.
Well, it's a small town now. It's only 11,000 people, so that's huge. Yeah.
I mean, even in Calgary, in sort of in the inauguration, which was later than here, by the way, Calgary electric streetcar started here in I think 1909 or something, like
Yeah.
way later than
Like-
Nelson.
It's like it's a little late to the party.
Yeah, 1909. I just looked at my notes. Yeah. So way earlier, like a decade earlier, they had it going in Nelson already.
Yeah.
This is a great shot with the old cars and some of the old buildings in the background.
Yeah.
Good, yeah. Got to have your cow catcher on the front, even though you're going through town, and hopefully there's no cows in town.
Oh, moose. What about moose?
Maybe a moose, or maybe a vagrant who's a firebug. You maybe
Oh.
I don't know. It's a bit of a smaller picture, but you get these crazy things in the background. Now I remember my nana, my grandma, who was born in London, England, talking about these when I was a kid, and they used to call them pigeon poles because the pigeons would roost on them.
Mm.
But apparently these are electric and these are telegraph. Apparently,
Yeah.
telegraph and later telephone, because you would have to have one wire servicing one telegraph or one phone. It's not like today where they run multiple wires through one big wire, right?
Seems
Apparently that's what these were, but I don't know because I don't see any wires.
Something suspicious about the whole telegraph story.
Well, I don't see wires. I see wires here for the electric, but I don't see any wires.
Well, there's a story that a lot of them were like fried. I can't remember where it was, somewhere in the States, where like all the wires were fried, and that explains why there's no wires. Yeah.
Well, what is it? The Tunguska event or whatever? A bunch of these got fried.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
This is just, could you imagine riding on one of these? Oh, I'm just going to go to work. And this is well, you can imagine. Yeah. And I can somewhat imagine. I live pretty close to the mountains, but this is what you look at every day on your morning commute. Beautiful big trees and glorious mountains.
Sure seems like a nice place to live.
It's beautiful.
Gonna have to get down there one of these days. Carrington event, that was it. Not Tunga. Yeah, the Carrington
event. Oh, Carrington, my mistake.
That's
I'm
right.
sorry.
That's it. Yeah.
Look at this, a double-decker.
In Nelson? You sure you were still in Nelson?
Nelson.
That's ridiculous.
Nelson Tramway.
Wow.
Nelson Tramways. Actually, no, I'm lying. This fooled me. This is actually, the company name is Nelson Tramway Corporation, and this is out of England. Because they love their double deckers in England. But for a second, I thought, well, it would make sense for a sightseeing because of the mountains.
That's incredible, that thing. Amazing.
So I was fooled for a second, and I pretty much flipped my lid when I saw this. I'm like, wait, they had double decker trams in Nelson, British Columbia? But no. There's the CP Rail's main station.
Nice.
In Nelson. And you and I have talked about these CP Rail buildings before, not only the old hotels, but these stations. All of these angles, all of these dormers, even if it's a wooden structure, it's still quite a bit of work involved in doing all of this.
Well, I suspect a lot of the structures too were the roof lines were changed and then flattened. So a lot of the roofs could be coming in after the fact with some lumber, and maybe they were, because the old world buildings have a lot more of the tech coming off, and they're probably an active effort to get rid of a lot of that. So I think the roofs were altered quite a bit.
Yeah, and that would be easy to explain away in let's say a region that doesn't get a lot of snow. But if you take a roof like this and then you end up kind of flattening it or getting rid of a lot of these angles, you would say, well, why would you change that? Because this would be easier to shed snow and ice, right?
Yeah.
So then if you change it to a less severe slope or make it a flat roof, it's sort of counterintuitive to the weather.
Yeah.
This is the same CPR depot, just from a different angle. I just love with the train and the old jalopies and even a horse and buggy still in the background.
Yeah. Early days.
And then this is that other railway, the small gauge railway. You could see their locomotives are much different, not quite as sophisticated, a little bit more primitive looking, much smaller. And their coal car is attached because their route, whatever, their circuit was much smaller. So they didn't have to haul a separate coal car like some of the larger steam engines did, or would, depending what they burned, right? But this much more of a modest little building, still big, beautiful lights on it. And
yeah.
obviously quite busy. I mean, it's a photo op, so hey, everybody, come get your picture. But
Yeah.
I would imagine that, you know, this would be a fairly well-used train station.
Yeah.
And
There
then
it is.
there's a close-up of that beautiful paddle
Yeah.
boat.
Nice. Triple
This
decker.
is, this is the maiden voyage.
Wow.
And then there's a couple of other ones. Look how this is that same Naksuka. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but you can see it dwarfs these other ones.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mhm.
there it is actually.
That's a different one.
Yeah, this is the
Kuskanak?
Kuskanak. So this is the launching of the Kuskanak. So it's being launched. It's being pulled out from the dock, I guess, by another steamer. So they're basically towing it out, and then they'll start up. They'll lower the paddle and start it up.
It's a late time frame on these. I think you said into the 40s.
Yes.
One ran like that's That's very late for this technology.
Well, they still have one that runs, one or two that run the Kootenai Lake. But here's another shot of now they've lowered the wheel and they disconnected the one towing it, and boom, off they go. The Kuskanak steamer. Just a beautiful piece of machinery.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. That's what I've got for my folder and for everything that I've kind of found looking into Nelson.
That was fun.
Yeah, just like a bunch of crazy, shocking stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So what do you say we take a quick little break and
Sure.
Come back and dive into it? I've actually found some video footage of Nelson, BC from 1939, some home movies. So I've set it to some music. It's about 2.5 minutes long. So I'll cue that up and get that going, and we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, excellent. 75 of you watching right now, so thank you very much once again for tuning in and joining us here for episode 11. Canucklehead Show, Nelson, British Columbia. We'll take this quick break. I hope you enjoy this old-timey video, 1939, Nelson, BC, and then we'll be right back. All right, everybody? So stay tuned. Cheers. right, we are back. Welcome, everybody. So there you go. It's 1939, some footage. Nelson, British Columbia. I forgot to mention it was in color too. It wasn't colorized, AI colorized or run through different colorizing filters or whatever. So a very nice color footage. Nelson, BC.
Nicely done. That was
Thank
awesome.
you. Yeah, I've gotten lucky with the show with finding footage of whatever local city or town here in Canada we're covering on the show. I don't think I've missed one yet. The interwebs. It's amazing.
You did a great job too of painting a picture of early Nelson. So it's a nice backstory for some of the visuals I'll be throwing out at you.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the thing is I always wait with bated breath for your photo folder because you always find some great stuff, man.
You're cracking me up, man. You gotta stop it.
Well, it's true. Come on now.
Yeah.
So once again, everybody, thank you for joining us here. Canuckleheads, episode 11, Nelson, British Columbia, with myself, New West Reset, Chris, Old World Exploration. If you haven't already, give a couple of fellows a like. You know, a couple of Canuckleheads, a couple of Canadians, eh? We like to be liked. That's why we're so friendly up here. So you've got some photos. What do you say?
I do. It's not a large file, 22 photos, and I got some interesting side stories to throw in as well. So I hope you guys will stick around and as I present a couple of the visuals. Definitely some brick and stone going on here in Nelson, BC.
Yes. One wonders too how if it's Regina, Saskatchewan, where it's fairly flat, one could say, okay, it would be the logistics of getting these building supplies to a job site, to put it up. Okay, it's maybe not so tough, but when you're getting into some of these mountain towns, it's not like it's just not as easy, right? There's limited space. You're blasting or hammering or digging through rock instead of dirt for a lot of cases. It's just not fun. It's got to be a giant pain in the keister.
Yeah, no, it's the infrastructure that we're seeing. It doesn't jive well with the backstory we're given timeline-wise again, right? So there's holes in the narrative, and that's what we're doing here on this show. We're just trying to illustrate our disbelief in the story we're being given about history, right? Oh, welcome.
Vaughn's here from Lucius channel. Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks for being here. Yeah.
All right. So what do you say? Let's see what you got here, buddy.
Yeah, we're distinctly Canadian here on the Canuckleheads. Just so you know, I'm going to start again with some more geography. I've got the Google road map, I guess you could call it, open here, and just to show you again where we are. So I'm up here. Up in Prince George, British Columbia, Canada, and Frankie's over here in Calgary, Alberta.
Yep.
And we're looking at Nelson down here in the Kootenays. There we go. So again, remote location. Neither of us have been to Nelson because you can see how the highways are set up. It's kind of you see all this windiness. That means they got to make their way around mountain valleys and passes, and a lot of ferries actually in this area too. A lot of large lakes and ferry crossings.
Yeah, or often ferry crossing a river rather than just building a bridge, which is strange, but okay, sure.
It is, yeah. It's an interesting area. I remember going through as a child. I don't think I went to Nelson, but the surrounding area, and interesting areas to travel in for sure. Very picturesque. And so we'll start here on the file. Just a street scene of Nelson, BC. Now remember, so we have the two prospecting brothers arriving in the late 1880s. We have a tent city springing up, and then at the turn of the century, we're looking at about 3,000 people.
Yeah, 1887, the tent city of between 300 and 400. 1887, 1888, and then all of a sudden, boom, we get this.
Yeah, and the similar view to what we saw earlier, but you can see the buildings here, the old world look, I suppose we could call it,
yes.
Prominent in Nelson.
That conical dome on that one. right?
Yeah.
Wow,
And this one too, strange shape with the
hmm
again with the spires. These are not flagpoles. So was it just form or is there function? That's the question, really, isn't it?
Yeah, what purpose did they serve?
Why, if you're the fella up here putting the shingles on, why are you capping that with a what 15-foot pole, maybe
Yeah,
more?
with some kind of ball on top, or sometimes it's a little eagle on top, or sometimes it's a lion's head. Like the usual, you know,
Hmm. Yeah,
usual suspects, right?
it just seems strange. Yeah, great film by the way, Usual Suspects. Fire Hall, looking at the
Kaiser
fire hall.
Soze.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a bit odd too. You can see. I mean, it is a mountainous region, so you've got quite a bit of sloping going on. But nice brick structure. I don't have dates on a lot of these, so at a town like Nelson, Frankie and I were chatting before we went live today. It's difficult to find a lot of visual evidence on some of these more remote locations. You know,
Yeah,
so that's
which is
why I only have.
strange. Which is strange because it's so historic, right? They're telling us, like, it was. By the way, it was named the Queen City because a lot of these beautiful old world structures that are brick and stone, like this, and some of the other ones that Chris is going to show us, supposedly were completed toward the tail end of the Victorian era.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
there you go. You get there. You've got to get the Queen air. I say we are not amused. However, we are slightly amused at Nelson, British Columbia, because it is the Queen City.
There it
Lovely,
is.
lovely.
You got what you came for, folks.
There you go. Everybody can go home now. They've heard Frankie's crappy British accent Queen Victoria impression.
And I mean, when will they say that these were built as well? Because we looked at the narrative. With the Firebug narrative was in 1911. I think that's when we had that.
Yes, yeah,
It's still getting the impression that most of the buildings were made out of wood at that point.
right. Which is
Although,
why it was such a panic,
yeah,
right?
although we do have the firewall narrative going up a little bit earlier, I
Yeah,
guess. With the
that's
heads up
right. The
there.
firewall.
Yeah.
Mm.
But what are we looking at here even? And I don't know the original purpose. This is interesting. Somebody tagged it up here too.
Oh, lazy.
Yeah. But I mean, look down below here. You
That's
can
kind of a
see.
shame. I kind of wish people wouldn't tag. If you're going to tag a building, tag one of the new
Yeah,
glass and steel skyscrapers that are ugly. Don't tag this beauty. Come on
that's
now.
right. Yeah. You can see the stonework down here below, right? The big stonework. Like, was it the Chinese doing that?
Uh,
That's what I was waiting for.
possibly.
Well, we know there was hundreds of Chinese because we saw that in the article.
Well, at least 200 gathered around to watch that cigar fire. That wasn't really a fire. So, yeah.
So
And that one guy got shot in the leg. He was Chinese.
that's
Mr.
right.
Chu.
And who's doing the brickwork at this early time period?
And even though it's a smaller building, but let's say by comparison to, Vancouver or Toronto or something, still very nice brickwork on that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, intricate. And again, the stonework as well is just, it rings the alarm bell in my mind, you know.
Yeah, is that brick built on top of stone? Is that stone just a facading stone to cover up brick that goes further down? Like, who knows, right? Because there's very little of the narrative of these buildings. It's all, oh, this was a tent, and then it was a wood building, and then the smelt burnt down, and then we got this. So you're like, wait a second,
Yeah, it's I don't know. We're just asking questions, you know.
Mud Fossil Evidence saying he's been in Nelson.
There you can see the train, the tramways down the center of the street, and
Mm-hmm.
the main drag. Right, give you a sense of the brick buildings. A lot of brick, a lot of brick. Look at that. Even the smaller ones, bricked out.
Yep. And all that tech again on top of all of those.
Yeah.
Like every one of them has got at least one. Some have two or three.
All the way down. Yeah, all the way down. Interesting. Looking kind of weathered too. This curb work here. I mean, this is early. These are what, maybe 30s, maybe. I
Late
don't know.
20s, judging by the cars.
Yeah. But I mean, we had a story that you read out saying that the sidewalks were wooden in 1911. So this would be what, 10, 20 years later?
This is
And
roughly a decade, maybe a decade and a half later. I don't think this would even be the 30s yet. Those cars in the background look more 20s to me. I mean, I ain't Henry Ford or nothing, but
yeah,
you know.
looking very worn and weathered though, and you can see a bit of patchwork going on the top here. Some bad
Yeah.
paved jobs, probably covering up the brick streets. I think I do.
Yeah,
have
there could have been brick underneath there, but
think
they
we
could
will.
use the excuse to, oh, we have to resurface it all the time because it freezes, thaws. So there's heaving under that pavement, so we got to resurface it every few years. You know.
But the bricks were fine before that. Yeah, I can't remember what this one. This might have been a city hall, but it turned into some sort of art. Ooh, we almost have a date there, 19 something. Can't really might be 1910. It's hard to make out.
Yeah, I can't quite. Can you zoom in again just for a sec?
Yeah.
It looks like either 1910 or 1900. I'm to me that looks like it says 1900.
That may be a 0. Yeah, that's not a 1, is it?
It looks like 1900 to me anyway.
I'm sure there's a better picture online we could find out. But yeah, nice looking building. And if it is 1900, we're looking at 3,000. Even if it's 1910, that's probably 4,000 people in the town.
Yeah.
Very intricate brickwork going on here.
Yeah, and they've inlaid some stone in there as well, and again that dome on top. I mean, putting a dome on anything would be difficult enough. You've got to have the right tradesmen and craftsmen that have the knowledge and the ability to do it. But to do a cone-shaped dome, a conical dome, is even again more of a pain in the arse.
Think maybe the Doukhobors building this stuff?
Sure, yeah, they're at the end of the day when they're done plowing and seeding their fields, they come into town and whack up a couple of these buildings.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Just watch out for that firebug.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Again, that main drag, right? Not a large town, but so you're going to see the same area over and over. And this is what, 50s? Looks like
40s.
40s?
Yeah.
That streetcar in full effect.
Yeah, and it's got a Volkswagen Beetle paint job on the front. It almost looks like
here,
or a Volkswagen bus.
Yeah.
But it's funny, you say, you have the main street, the main drag through the town, but again, it doesn't matter whether you're in Canada, the U.S., or anywhere else in the realm. It could be the smallest little town of, let's say, 300 people, like a modern town today, and let's say, I don't know, somewhere in rural Texas or something. It's a little town of 300 or 400 people, but they will have a main street like this with 2, 3, 4-story brick buildings like this.
Yeah. This one was on that Wikipedia page. I grabbed it off of there. This is supposedly 1896. The mine smelter.
Okay, so this is the one that burnt down.
But it's the stack that drew my eye here.
Well, it's huge.
Right? Big brick stack, probably a stone base down there, maybe even a band of stone here. Or veneer, whatever you want to call it. That's a hell of a stack. Who goes to that kind of trouble, especially in 1896, to make sure that the smoke is up and away from the work that's being done, I suppose. I mean, that's something that you see all over places like the UK and even in the eastern seaboard in the States, in the old industrial mid-1800s type of
factory. Some of the industrial centers in the early U.S., right, like Pittsburgh and St. Louis, and those you see huge stacks like that. Yeah.
So I thought this one really stuck out like a sore thumb, and the rest is kind of hazy and you can't tell what's going on. But if this is 1896, there's still quite a bit of city here.
This is really early on, and you can see in the background there, it's pretty built up, like not even just along the waterfront, but as you make your way towards that sort of hill.
Up here, yeah, you're right. It's interesting. I figured I'd grab that one because, that one's Like, when did they build that then? Is that supposed to be brand new for 1896? Has that been there since Tent City? Did they go from Tent City, build a big stack?
Well, and then is there a brick factory in Nelson? Like, I couldn't find anything about any brickworks in Nelson. So I don't know.
They'll say the train, right? The train was shipping it all.
Yeah, I guess, right? Oh, the train brought in all that brick. Wow. Okay.
Something wrong with the timeline is where I just reiterate that with my videos. There's something wrong with the timeline here, folks.
Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
We have the Imperial Bank.
Wow.
Yeah, again, the brick and stone, and a lovely blend of brick and stone.
That awning in the front, that looks goofy. Look how far down it's pulled.
This one here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems a bit strange.
What is there, a bunch of vampires working as bank tellers in there? What's going on?
Here too. These are all awninged out too, so you hide from the sun, right? Got through the firebug. That was a hell of a story. I'm telling you, that was story time with Frankie.
That was weird, right?
Oh, it was fantastic. I'm glad you found that. I'm glad we're able to get that out on the interwebs. That's what it's all about. We have the Hume Hotel. Not a great photo, but there isn't a lot available out there. So this is what you're
That's
getting.
beautiful, though.
It is.
Hume. That name rings a bell from one of the sources that I was reading from earlier.
That's right. Yeah, it came up, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe the mayor or something, maybe, or some highfalutin fella. Anyway.
And this is 1900. Does it look like a brand new structure? Hard to tell. I guess it's a pretty grainy photo. But again, the pole. This time it's supposed to have a flag on it. I suppose they're going to say it was a flagpole because everybody loved flying flags back then. It was so important.
Well, yeah, and we wouldn't have even had our own flag, so we were just flying the Union Jack at this point still, right? So
yeah, exactly.
I think then later on we ended up with that sort of red flag that had a coat of arms and a beaver on it, and then later in the 60s, then we got the flag that we have now.
Yeah.
The maple leaf, eh?
Yeah. Moved away from the Union Jack a bit. Yeah. I think this is okay. So this is the same one years later. Let me go back just to show you. And then
different awnings on it.
Yeah, they were still going with the awnings, I guess. It's almost like a hiding the building.
Well, they're hiding all of the arched windows, at least on the main floor down the side.
Right here.
Yeah, down in there. It hides the arched windows there in the more modern version, right?
Sure does. And they've actually changed them, you can see. So they're all single windows here.
Ah, yes, that too, right.
And they busted the wall open and put these
yeah, you're right. Buggers.
Yeah. Still beauty though. Still looks like a beauty.
Yeah, they didn't knock it down. That's good.
Yeah, check the stonework, the band of stone up here, right? So the Doukhobors, after doing what they do, are up here on the scaffold and then putting the brick up, and all of a sudden you've got a band of stone, decorative stone going across.
I wonder what stone that is.
Yeah, good question. I'm sure some sort of lime or sand. I don't. Yeah, maybe more sand. I don't know. Hard to tell.
It does have that same color as a sandstone.
Yeah, I think it would be a sandstone.
I mean, but you're right there in the mountains, so it could be almost anything.
Brick flare too. See the flare here on the bricks coming out. It's nice. It's nice work. Again, it's old world.
Yeah, taking the time to bother to do that, the extra man hours, the extra expense, the extra craftsmanship that would have to be involved.
Yeah.
Even just the math involved in, even an accomplished bricklayer, he's got to do the math in his head or whatever to figure out, okay, this is what I need to do to get this course of brick to protrude, such and such amount so that I could lay another course and another, and have this effect, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You have a building like this. Not sure what it is again. Oh, maybe it says something house. The courthouse. This is the courthouse.
That's the courthouse?
Mm-hmm.
It almost looks like a church, but missing its spire or something. Like, that's a courthouse.
I said, hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? This is all stone, or is it stone veneer, right?
Either way, it's got the turret there that's protruding out. Like it's just, again, with a conical dome on it. Looks like they've got a fence around it because it goes down a bit.
Yeah, and they're along the side there.
Yeah.
But I'm trying
Huge arch on that main door, but it looks kind of squat or stumpy to me.
Yeah, this one here. Yeah, it looks like it should be longer going downward. Yeah, it's a beauty, and again, it's not the type of architecture that I would have thought to have seen here, right? So I do have a here. I'll drag this over. I just did a quick search here. We have a walking tour. So most of these buildings are built between 1895 and 1924. We've been told.
Okay, there we go.
Of the types of styles you're going to see there, but
well, they got to push the date back that far so they can get the Queen Victoria narrative in there, right? Because she died, what, 1901 or something like that? I don't remember.
Yeah, but the problem with that is we were a tent city in the late 1800s, so there's a timeline problem there.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Because we had 1887, 1888, 300 to 400 people set up tents along what is now the main street, I guess.
And so this part here, do you think they had that planned and shipped in? Was that the architect planned it, sized it? They shaped it in maybe in the big city, and then they shipped it there, or was this shaped on site? These are the questions that run through my mind when I see. And we got columns in here between the windows,
and a little portal there too. So they've got to shape that stone around the little portal.
Well, this is for the arrows, right? The bow and arrows. These slits here.
Oh yeah, that's what those are for.
This is for attackers.
To keep away the invading Romans or whatever. I don't know. I guess for Nelson, BC, keep away the invading tribes of wild Indians. I don't know.
Yeah, right. It doesn't make sense. Why are you putting slits in here? Why are you trying to make it look like that? Right? Doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think I'll say
big scrubbed blank coat of arms or cartouche above that door too. I've just noticed. Like it's totally blank. Yeah.
Yeah, right there. Like, why build that but not fill that in, right? Something ain't right. That's for sure. Dragon Sage. Nelson, BC. All right. I do have a construction photo as well. We will get to it, and we can dissect that and make of it what we will. This looking quite early. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I don't know. This is definitely not that same drag, unless it's looking in a different direction. But again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories with the dormer space. That's a very large building.
Yeah, this is Stanley Street. So it's a main street, but it's not the main street, which is called Main Street. But Main, Lake, Stanley, and there's one or two others that are kind of the more sort of commercial area, and some of the larger buildings, older buildings.
Almost looks like these guys are digging out the tracks, like cleaning out the area around the track.
Well, and even the debris that's piled up against the edge of the sidewalk too. So
yeah,
what is all that crud?
I was gonna say, it feels like the wooden walks. This looks like a wooden walk, are possibly built over other older sidewalks, because this looks high too. You can see the little railing here. These look a lot higher than they should be.
It looks like it could be creeping up on almost a foot off of the street surface level, like maybe 8 inches high. That's a high curve or a high sidewalk. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got some arched windows tucked away in here. I mean, most of this is depicting this wooden look, but I think if we look closer, that's probably a brick structure. That's definitely some brick arches here. In here.
Vaughn says they're shoveling trolley poop.
Trolleys pooped back then. Well, they're horse-drawn it.
I was just going to say there's no horse pulling it, so.
Yeah.
Hey, Kimmy.
Have we visited what? I missed the end of that. Old mining town, Sandon. No. I am going to be jumping over to another old mining town that no longer exists. I'm almost there. Stay tuned for that. little bit more, and there's that interesting shaped, almost onion dome-ish look there. Probably
Yeah.
a church.
Great.
And then you have an interesting slopage going on here down the street. The way that's all put together.
Yeah, where
Looking at-
each doorway entrance is at a different height, which means the thresholds at the bottom of the door is a different height. Which wouldn't that mean that the floor inside is a different height, even
For
though
each
it
one.
looks to be all the same building block? You know what I mean? The same structure.
I do know what you mean, and that's very difficult to design in that way. Having to deal with a street that's on a slope like that, and having to, design this one however many inches lower than this one, and so on and so forth as you move down.
Yeah.
All right, a few more here of Nelson before I take you over to a neighboring mining city. Again, is this the main drag we're looking? No, we haven't looked in this direction yet.
No.
Yeah.
This is looking from the other direction now. Yeah.
Massive streetcar. That's one of those big ones.
Yep. And again, this wide streets, even in this little mountain town, we see that all the time too. Big, like they're anticipating that 40 years from now, there's going to be, 4-lane traffic of automobiles out cruising up and down here.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of them will have the 2 lanes and then the diagonal parking.
Sometimes. Yes.
Yeah. Interesting shot, this one. I don't have a date on the photo, but it's early, to be sure.
Baker Street, that's the one I was thinking of, is the other really sort of main, is Baker Street. Yeah. Okay.
There's that building we looked at earlier with the date on it.
Yeah.
That was still there then, of course, right?
That's a beauty.
Yeah. Drugstores. Got to have drugs to keep people sedated so they don't see the truth.
Yeah, so they don't say, what's with the dome on that building over there?
That couldn't have been built 2 years ago. What do you mean?
Wasn't this place just tents a few years ago?
Yeah. The mountain looks weird in the back too. That doesn't look right. The background.
It looks too smooth.
Yeah. It looks like a line and two separate hues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, right. You have to doctor up those old photos.
Well, a lot of times they prep these for postcards and stuff like that, right? And then, so we might be seeing somebody uploaded this to the interwebs during various stages of that prep work prior to the postcards being printed, in the, 1910s, 20s. That's very picturesque, by the way.
It's beautiful, isn't it? I got to get to Nelson. I got to book a hotel room, take the kids there. I got to make it part of a holiday.
Look, there's 2 buildings there, and they both have conical domes. There's a deeper red brick one, and then one that's a slightly more of a yellow brick.
There's the courthouse.
And they both have towers with domes on it, conical domes on it.
Yeah, you got a church over here on the right.
Yeah.
So, like, the landscape is difficult, very difficult with that.
Yeah, you can see this perfectly illustrates, like, this would have been a pain in the arse to. And in that short time period that they're saying, from tents to this.
It's for the very small population too. Well, everyone's focused on mining. Why would you focus on a 4-story brick structure when there's silver in them there hills?
Well, same thing as San Francisco. Why would that just all of a sudden pop up really quickly and really huge when everybody's out, panning and hammering for gold in them there hills?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yes, obviously there would be people moving into this small town, to support the mining and logging industry, shops and restaurants and yada, yada. But I mean, still the majority of the town, the workforce is going to be, like you said, focused on mining and later to some extent, logging.
So here we have a construction photo, and it's an interesting photo.
That looks weird.
Yeah, we got a building back here that's kind of phased out into the mountain. Hard to tell the difference between the roof of the building and the mountain behind. Is that a person up here on some sort of ladder? I don't know what that's supposed to be, but it's odd.
Maybe it looks weird though.
Is that a cloud?
Maybe it's a hoist. Maybe it's not a ladder. Maybe it's a hoist.
But it almost looks like that's a person. Arms, legs, head.
Yeah, just kind of perched precariously up there.
And that's either a photo defect or supposed to be a cloud. I'm not sure.
It's flying saucer. The aliens taught them how to build. I'm kidding. That's ridiculous.
It's strange. I'm not sure what building it is either. I don't know if we even saw this one.
That's the one that's got the conical dome on it, I think.
Well, there's a couple, right? Okay, well, let me jump back.
Well, there's this is the
it's this
lighter
one.
colored one.
It's this one. It's got to
Yes, yeah, with the Canadian flag on it.
be. Yeah, okay.
I think it's that one. It looks to
That
be
makes
anyway.
sense. Let me go. Yeah. Yeah, for sure it is. So that's interesting. I don't know if we're looking at a reframe.
Looks like it's a funny looking photo.
It is, yeah. It's definitely strange. There's the sawhorses over here. This guy's walking. Where's this guy's foot? Oh, maybe it's there. It's an interesting photo. I thought I'd throw it in. I didn't want to be accused of cherry picking, so this one's out there, and I wanted to include it. Maybe. I don't know when this would be dated to as well. It'd be interesting to know when this was supposed to have. I don't have a date on it. So this is the city hall, by the way. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's. You know what? A good point, Neuromass. No snow in any of the photos so far.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they didn't take photos in the winter. I mean, both of our channels, we've shown lots of old world photos with snow. And on this show, the Canucklehead show, a lot of the photos we would share would have snow. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
And another look. I don't think we've seen this stretch either. I'm not sure.
A building on the right almost looks like it belongs in the French Quarter in Nolans or something.
Yeah.
That must be a hotel.
Yeah, Trafalgar Hotel. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. Fancy.
And there's something else here. Yeah, this is a nice stretch of road. There's the telegraph poles, the pigeon poles, as you say.
Yeah. Still not seeing any wires in this photo.
Yeah. Days gone by.
I love all the tech on that building beside the Trafalgar Hotel. They look like urns up there, you know?
Yeah, up here. Definitely. Beautiful.
Yeah. I love those.
See those sidewalks. A lot. You know what? The sidewalks they don't look very deep. It's like the streets are filled again.
It's definitely dirty street.
Like that looks like it's a couple inches max. Like sidewalks typically.
And it doesn't look wood either.
No, these look like these can be you can see the posts going right down into them. That looks a bit deeper, but on this side, it almost looks like there isn't much of a curb on the sidewalk.
Yeah. So like you said, maybe they built the wooden sidewalks on top of these sidewalks. And then later on in the 20s, they would have ripped up the whole shebang and just poured new concrete sidewalks, you know? Interesting photo.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting location, Nelson. I'm gonna veer off a little bit. So you mentioned in your segment Francis Rattenbury, this architect here.
Yes.
Right? Because let me go to what he's accredited with building. Here's his gallery of work. So he's done all these amazing, like we've covered these. Oh God, that's small. There we go. This is in Victoria, British Columbia, right? And he's done Empress Hotel in Victoria. There's a Victoria Street scene. So there's a few more. Let me get to. Let's see if we have any from Nelson. I know he did some in Nelson because his name was attached to the reason for the architecture being the way it is because of this Rattenbury. Let me see. So, okay.
So he's very instrumental in the overall aesthetic look of Nelson, is what they're trying to say.
That's right. We have the courthouse, designed in 1903, completed in 1908. We looked at the courthouse. That's supposed to be his work. Interesting story with this guy. I just wanted to share his story. I may have shared it on the Victoria one as well. He was murdered apparently by the 18-year-old chauffeur who had apparently been cheating with his wife.
What?
Yeah, it's a strange story. I've come across it before, and I wanted to share it again on this broadcast just to bring it up. And then apparently it was such a famous incident that they were going to make a movie out of it with Laurence Olivier here. You can see it here. But it never happened.
Sir, excuse me, loyal subject. I believe it is Sir Laurence Olivier.
My mistake.
We
my
are not
mistake.
amused.
Yeah. So I wanted to throw that in there again. This Rattenbury, I think, cover story. I don't believe a lick of any of this story. The British Columbia Legislature building. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a beauty.
It's unbelievable.
Did he
And
do
we have.
did he do the hotel in Regina too?
It's very possible he's responsible for quite a few hotels. Maybe not that one. He was going to do one in Prince Rupert as well. His high school in
So
Victoria
he's
too.
mainly stuck around BC for a lot of his
Yeah,
structures, supposedly.
he's the name attached to some of this amazing. They have the Bank of Montreal in Nelson as well. So he did a couple in the Nelson area. He also did apparently the hospital in a town called Phoenix. Now this is what I wanted to get into.
Oh, Arizona, nice. It's beautiful this time of year.
We're still in British Columbia here, Frankie.
Wait, what?
Phoenix.
There's a Phoenix, British Columbia, you say?
There was Phoenix, British Columbia. Now here we are in Nelson.
What do you mean there was? Did the Firebug burn it down?
I think just the mining got in the way. Oh, the mining dried up, as they say, right? So we're in Nelson. If we're coming west, driving toward Vancouver, British Columbia, we take these jaggedy mountain roads until we get to Phoenix down here. You can see this is the yellow are the main highways, and Phoenix is way off the beaten path. So I'm just gonna share this story with you guys. Phoenix, British Columbia is a ghost town. Once called the highest city in Canada by its citizens. Here we go. It was a booming copper mining community from the late 1890s until 1919. In its heyday, it was home to 1,000 citizens.
Wait. What were those dates again? Sorry.
1890s, the late
Yeah.
1890s until 1919. We got a 20-year period,
So
basically.
basically 20 years, they opened her up and then shut it down. Okay.
And here we go. 1,000 citizens. It had an opera house, 20 hotels, a
What?
brewery, and its own city hall. What do you think? 20 hotels.
You guys have officially made me lose my marbles!
Yeah. Well,
God bless that kid, by the way. He encompasses exactly what I was thinking every time with this.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely World War I was the reason this place ended. Apparently, the price of copper dropped dramatically, and this place, I would just want to see to the demolition. Many left their homes and belongings. Many.
Oh, they
also,
let's just get in the car and skedaddle, Ethel.
let's get the hell
What
out of here.
about my Nana's dishes? Just leave them. We gotta go.
The largest ghost town in Canada.
See again with the ghosts thing.
Yeah. In 1920, wrecking crews arrived to haul away the churches, halls, stores, skating rink, and hospital, all of which were dismantled and re-erected in other communities.
Oh, so they just pull up a truck and a couple of guys get out, 2 guys in a truck, and they just take down a church, load it up, and drive it down to the next town and then just rebuild it, do they?
It's getting weird. It's getting weird, guys. This is a weird one. And I came across this a while back and I wanted to feature it. So I figured this would be a good one to slip it in. Phoenix, British Columbia.
Yeah, I'd never even heard of it.
20 hotels.
20 hotels.
A hospital, an ice rink.
And then 20 years later, gone.
Yeah.
Okay, I suppose I could say, according to the official story, the price of copper sinks because of the war, because all of the metals would be redirected toward the war effort, and the government is not going to pay top dollar for steel and iron and copper and whatever, right? They're just going to be like, give me it because it's for the war, and we got to defeat those dirty Huns over in Europe for whatever reason.
That's racist!
And take it easy, kid. Just go by the official story here.
Yeah, Opera House.
That's a good question. Where's the food
coming from? Yeah, good question for sure.
They had an opera house. Yeah, come on, man.
Why would you pillage the town? It's what a strange story.
Well, and again, this town, like they just said, like it's a mining town, and once the mining dried up, the town dried up. So obviously, the overwhelming majority of the workers had to do with the mine. So are they really into things like ice skating and going to the opera, and like do they have time to do, like I suppose the miners' children would be going to school, maybe going ice skating and stuff, but I don't know about you. I ain't a miner or nothing, but at the end of the
Well,
day, I imagine they want to go home, have a big hearty meal, put their feet up for a bit, maybe have a wobbly pop or two, sit by the fire, and then
yeah,
go to bed because they got to get up at 4 in the morning to get back into the mine.
1,000 people, 20 hotels. It just who's building that and when?
When and
Like,
how and where did they find the time? What is that big thing in the background there? And that
it looks like a granary. I don't know what they'll call that. Maybe that's the mine part itself. I really don't know. That's a big
there
structure.
are some big buildings in this town of supposedly 1,000 people that came and went in 20 years.
Yeah, this is the best photo I could find. It took me a
Like
while to find this one.
3 and 4-story buildings.
1, 2, 3. That looks like a well-built street here, coming running right down the main drag here too. You know,
They've got a viaduct right there going, what looks like almost going over the top
here,
of that one building. No,
yeah,
down underneath that one. That, yeah,
here,
well, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Does that look like a bridge or a viaduct? Maybe it's just a trick of the eye from the shadow. I don't
I
know.
don't know. It might be. It's some strangeness going on here for sure. Unless these are false fronts. I don't know. But
That looks like it's basically built over that building, which looks like
yeah.
maybe a hotel, and then a big
Well,
house, or I don't know what the hell's going on, man.
it might be an indication of a doctored photo too, but no longer exists. I wanted to bring it up in here because I think it's important to remember these things.
PCS World brings up a good point that hotel is also an old world name for apartment buildings, and that is true. Yes, there are some buildings that I've done boots on the ground here in Calgary that they are apartment buildings. They were always, according to the narrative, apartments. They were built as apartments, but they are called the Rocky Hotel or the Springs Hotel or whatever, but it's actually an apartment. But even still, there's only 1,000 people, so you wouldn't need 20 apartments or even 10 apartments, 10 hotels. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, this one's.
But that is a good point, PCS World. Yes, absolutely.
But you need time to build this stuff. I mean, a tent city, I get 20 hotels and then structures like this, and for a city that was only around for 20 years, it would take more than 20 years to build all this.
Well, I would think so.
But this is what's left of Phoenix, British Columbia.
Unless they just brought in all the workers on trains and said, "Hey, man, we need a town here. Get at it." Like, either way, I try to figure it out. I can't. And that's all that's left is that marker.
That's all that's left. If you go to that area, there's a ski hill nearby, and then there's what do they call it? A cenotaph? These types of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what's left. So.
What the hell was that?
Yeah, I think it's worth throwing in. We have a connection with the architect who supposedly designed a hospital in Phoenix, not far from Nelson. And I have one more little tidbit for you, and it gets weird.
What do you mean it gets weird?
We're already there. Is that what you're saying? Are we already there?
I think so. I mean,
okay.
This is goofy. Come on, folks, hit the like for all this work that Chris has done with this thing. 70 of you watching. Thank you very much. This is crazy.
It's getting weird. Okay, so we're going to continue west toward Vancouver, British Columbia, and we're going to take the highway from Princeton to Hope, British Columbia. Now, this highway...
Yes, Hope.
Yeah.
Where, speaking of Rambo...
Yeah, Hope was filmed, or Rambo was filmed in Hope. You're right. Yeah.
Or First Blood was. Yeah.
The first one. Yeah. This is a roadside anomaly that once existed on the highway.
Oh, I have seen this.
I kind of showed it in my Vancouver video.
Ozbeast, a buddy of mine that lives down under there, mate.
Yeah.
He sent me a photo, this photo and another photo of this rock formation last year, maybe even the year before. And yeah, I flipped my lid. I'm like, what the heck?
It's strange, right? What's even stranger is this stretch of highway experienced a massive landslide in, I think it was the 50s, it could be the 40s, I have to look, and they rerouted the highway. So this is no longer along that stretch of the highway, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
got lost to the past. Yeah.
I totally forgot. I'm glad you showed this because I totally forgot about it. And I have this photo and another one in a folder. But yeah,
It's
crazy.
weird, right? It's weird. Yeah.
That's definitely a face. I mean, come on.
Hey, it looks like it. I mean,
To me, it is. I mean, I should put the caveat, in my opinion, that looks like a face.
yes, and it's us. This is all just our opinions. We're not saying we know anything for sure, right? All right.
Sage is here, and he says, been all through there. My family used to camp and explore the interior of BC in the late 70s. Oh, so in the 70s, you would have seen a lot more because obviously from then until now, 50 years has gone by. They've probably torn down so much stuff. I mean, as we talked about, Nelson has done a great job of maintaining some of that, but a lot of this other stuff, like you said, the highway's been rerouted, whatever. So
yeah,
yeah,
in the 50s, I think it was. Yeah.
Kimmy lived in Hope in the late 60s. Beautiful. I've been in Hope quite a few times, actually.
Me too. Yeah.
And by the way, rest in peace, Terry Fox.
Oh,
big connection there with Hope, British Columbia.
Yeah.
The real Superman, the actual real Superman, not the comic book guy, a real Superman, Terry Fox. A hero. I was going to say a Canadian hero, but really a worldwide hero at this point. And a legend, gone too soon.
Well, that's the end of my file.
That's a hell of a way to finish it off with that thing.
Weird, right? It's weird.
It definitely looks like a lady's face to me. Yeah. I would say so too. Definitely.
It makes you wonder about the landslide and the need to reroute the highway. Sus.
Yeah, like were too many people starting to take notice of, hey, that looks like a giant statue head of a lady's face. What's going on? So then they're like, oh, there was a landslide and it's dangerous through here now. So now we're going to reroute the highway, which again, this is a mountain highway. Oh, and let's not forget, you got 4 to 6 months of build time, because then the rest of the time it's ice and snow and colder than a witch's elbow.
Treacherous in there. Treacherous in the wrong time of year. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all you got to do is read about any of the historical narrative of building the railroad through these mountains, or any mountains, and how treacherous it was. So imagine it's going to be the same thing with building a highway or a road of any kind. Gregory May says, I see Mac tonight. I remember that. It's Mac tonight. That was a terrible 80s McDonald's ad campaign. Stuck in your head, though. It's during the Max Headroom days and all that. Yeah, this is nuts.
Yeah, so I guess we have to think of our next location, or after our 1-year anniversary.
Yeah, it's been a year. Mr. Beast fan says, I saw Terry run. I didn't see Terry run, but when we moved from Montreal to Calgary, we drove. Like the van came and, loaded up all the stuff and hit the road towards Calgary, and then we piled into a 1978 Pontiac Laurentian. Pulled a 19-foot travel trailer in 1980, and we drove across Canada from Montreal to Calgary. Kind of taking our sweet time, right? Us kids as little hostages in the back seat, while Dad's white knuckling it down the highway. Mom playing navigator in the passenger seat and messing with the radio station all the time, trying to get some music in when you're between cities or towns on the highway.
Yeah. And
we driving through Ontario, I believe right around Lake Superior, maybe Lake Ontario. We passed his van and we stopped. And his brother, who was driving the van, came out and met with us and chatted. But Terry was actually taking a little bit of a rest because he would rest midpoint during the day of his run. So we didn't want to disturb him. So we made a donation and, told his brother to wish him well and good luck, and we got back in the family truckster, and down the road we went. But yeah, if you're not familiar with who Terry Fox was, he was a young man who was diagnosed with cancer of his leg, got the lower portion of his leg from just above the knee down amputated, got an artificial leg, and he decided as a 19-year-old, I think, or maybe 18. I think he may have died when he was 19. But anyways, he got this idea in his head, I'm going to run across Canada, the second largest country in the entire planet, with one leg, basically, to raise money for cancer research. And he started by dipping his leg in the Atlantic Ocean in Newfoundland. And his plan was to run to BC and dip his leg in the Pacific Ocean. And he made it as far as central Western Ontario, where his cancer had spread to his lungs and other internal organs, and unfortunately, he passed away. But raised millions of dollars for cancer, and has since, the Terry Fox Fund has raised millions of dollars for cancer research. And kids in school did the Terry Fox Run every year, and it's kind of maybe gotten a little corporate in the sense, but starting off as a grassroots movement by this young kid who just decided to take the bull by the horns. And I greatly admire Terry Fox.
Legend.
Definitely a hero, and definitely you watch interviews, just a sweet young man, very kind and very just a good salt of the earth young man. Yeah, he was very young when he passed, I believe 19. Not to put a downer on the whole thing, but
yeah, it's good to know, especially people that aren't aware of the situation. Is a Canadian icon, absolutely. And
yeah, he's definitely worth a Google. If you got an extra Google in your pocket, it's definitely worth Google. What a show, man.
Yeah, that was a blast.
I know I say this almost every show, and we even put it in our closing outro video. I think that was our best show ever, but I mean, this was a heck of a great show.
Yeah, I agree. And
so many surprises, so many goofy narratives. Oh, Morgan, I'm sorry. He says, now we're crying. Thanks. Oh man.
Yeah, with a location is just a remote mountainous location in British Columbia. It's like we can dig this stuff up anywhere, really.
Well, and again, to reiterate the point of, if you're building a city or a town with buildings like this, or bigger, or even smaller, and you're, it's fairly flat ground, or in a nice river valley or something like that, or whatever. Sure, but in the mountains like that, just not as easy. And again, you got to factor in the snow and the blizzards and the high winds, and just once your outer portion of your structure is complete, then you can work on the interiors, and then it could be around the clock, year-round interior finishes and construction. But when you're first erecting the main structure, let's say digging the big hole for the foundation and putting up the walls and stuff, you got a really short window in a city or a town like Nelson. You've got maybe May, June, July, August, and like parts of the tail end of May and the beginning of September.
Yeah. And then it gets ugly.
Yeah. So in the chat, if you'd like to give us some recommendations on the next city or town in Canada that you want us to cover for the Canuckleheads.
We usually go from east to west, so we'd probably be going east, but it doesn't have to be a hard and fast rule. Depends.
Yeah. Nothing's carved in stone like the goofy dates on buildings that are probably false. But yeah, we usually jump back and forth. So last time we did east, now we're doing west. So the next one, if we could do east. So yeah, if you've got any ideas anywhere in Canada, and certainly if you're a local in a place, let's say you're from Thunder Bay or Petawawa, and you're like, hey, do my town, and you want to jump on the show, certainly contact myself or Chris, let us know.
Yeah, we had that. We had that in the previous episode.
That's right, for that whole sort of Galt area in and around it's sort of known as Waterloo, Cambridge, Waterloo area. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Shout them out in the chat if you've got any suggestions at all.
Or in the comments if you're watching the recorded version, and we'll be watching out for it. And if we don't get any suggestions, we'll find something. Don't you worry.
Oh, there's no shortage of, as we've seen tonight with a seemingly insignificant little, nothing against Nelson, by the way. From what I've seen here, beautiful little place. I would, like you said, Chris, I would go there on a little vacation in a heartbeat.
Yeah, well, maybe we have to. Maybe we'll meet there one day. Maybe we'll plan for it. And then we'll do a live together.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
that's a great idea. Thunder Bay, bye. That's right, Thunder Bay. You got the Thunder Bay there. There's probably more Newfies in Thunder Bay than Ontarioians.
Yeah, we could look at Thunder Bay. I've been there when I was 5.
Yeah, I was there too. Actually, been there a couple times. Drove through there, of course, with the big move, but had visited there too for some reason. I mean, why you would visit Thunder? Well, no, because it's on the lake. So yeah, maybe camping or something in and around Thunder Bay. I don't know.
I'll tell you what. When I was little, we took the train from where I live now, British Columbia, to Thunder Bay.
No way.
The mountains in the prairie. Yeah, and so because
my mother's via rail.
Yes, it was. My mother's from Duluth, Minnesota, and her family still lived there. So we took the train to Thunder Bay, and then we got picked up by my grandpa in Thunder Bay, and they took us to Duluth. Drove us to Duluth.
Granddaddy met you at the train station. Nice.
Yep.
Nice. Oh, that's cool. Okay. You may have, I'm sure you'd mentioned it, and maybe it just slipped my mind, that Duluth, because I know you've looked at Duluth, and I think, speaking of Lucius Aurelian from earlier as well, Yvonne said he's come here via Lucius' channel.
Yep.
He had looked in Duluth as well, didn't he?
Oh yeah, Duluth has got all sorts of delights. Yeah, but
delightful Bay, Duluth.
Yeah, I like the idea of Thunder Bay. I'm happy to take a closer look on that area. Dragon seems to be pushing for it here.
Thunder Bay it is. Sounds good. And you know what? I wouldn't have thought Thunder Bay, because it seems like, everybody's heard of Thunder Bay, and it's not really obscure or what could be happening in Thunder Bay. But yeah, I bet you there's some crazy stuff going on in Thunder Bay.
Well, I have peeked into it, but not too in depth. So that'll be fun to look a little closer.
You know, one thing that I looked for when looking at that history of Nelson, they had mentioned the bay. So I looked for an old brick or stone bay department store, like Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, like basically any decent sized town or city would have a Hudson's Bay store, right? And I couldn't find anything in terms of photos of old bay, whether it was a trading post or an actual department store or like a 5 and dime style bay, which is how they kind of started after they evolved from a trading post fort kind of structures. They moved into more of stores, like retail stores. And at first they looked like sort of 5 and dime types, and then they started building massive city block size department stores in the 20s and 30s, supposedly, right? But I didn't see anything, so it was kind of weird. But I bet you Thunder Bay had a big bay store.
Well, we'll find out, won't we?
We will indeed. So where are we at here? Just over the 2-hour mark. So yeah, I think, I don't know about you, but I'm like a hobbit. I'm ready for second breakfast now.
Yeah, I still got to get my first.
What are we coming up on 20 after 10 there for you? 20 after 11 for me, right?
Yeah.
So you haven't had breakfast yet?
I don't go too big into breakfast, so I usually starve myself to a point where I'm hungry enough to eat something.
Are you doing the Canadian breakfast? You had a coffee and 2 cigarettes.
2? 2 in the last 20 minutes. Don't do it, kids. Don't start.
Bill's saying he's going to finish his breakfast for lunch. There you go. Why not? Yeah, don't smoke, kids. It ain't healthy. We got a couple of filthy smokers here in the Canuckleheads. We're setting a terrible example.
We are. You're right.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? So, I think that's going to wrap it up here for today, everybody. So, wow, thank you very much. Still 50 of you watching. Thank you very much. Really appreciate all the support from everybody for both of our channels. Right now live, but also, as Chris mentioned earlier, for the re-up on both of our channels, if you're going to be tuning in and watching it after the live. Thank you very much for taking time out of your weekend, or maybe earlier in the week once you watch it. Really, really appreciate all the support. It's
Yeah.
great, especially for a small fry like me. Chris's channels, you're going great guns. You're doing really well, and you got your new kind of a new series, new format
Yeah,
that
I
we were
gotta
talking
do
about
just
quickly before we went
yeah.
on the air.
I decided to just do a regular time, weekly, and that way I can just focus on that. Because I was telling you before we went on the air, I used to be I have an idea in my head and I had to squeeze out a video, and it could have been any time, any of the week, and sometimes it would sort of um, consume my thoughts too much. So now I'm just trying to say, okay, I'll put this out at that time per week. These are my ideas, and then it's a little easier for me to maintain my day to day that way. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I kind of decided right out of the gates that when I started my channel that I was going to be very consistent. So what I did was I just kind of recorded about 5 or 6 videos sort of ahead of time
yeah,
so that I could get a hang of what I was doing and sort of the editing process and the uploading process.
yeah.
And that helped me kind of get ahead of the curve on being able to release them the same time of the same day of the week every week.
Hmm.
Um, and then I started getting, and that was, right from the get-go, I think it was every Sunday, because I figured, John Levi puts one up every Sunday, so if it's good enough for John, it's good enough for Frankie. I'll put one up every Sunday too, right? So I
Yeah,
started uploading every Sunday. But then I thought, well, it would be nice to do a midweek too, because in my research, I was finding lots of old film footage from the teens or even the 1890s, and I was surprised at how much Canadian content I was finding of this old film footage. So I started sort of grabbing that and editing it and putting it to music as a sort of a Wednesday
hmm,
upload. And that's gone off really well. I kind of put it to Canadian music, like I use Canadian bands, Canadian content, right? The
yeah,
Hip or Big Sugar or whoever, the Guess Who,
yeah,
Neil Young,
yeah,
you name it, right?
yeah,
And it's been really, really well received. And to this day, still, about 2 years in of doing those vintage footage videos on Wednesdays, I'm still shocked at how much old video footage I find of
yeah,
Canadian stuff. Like New York and London, sure, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting those videos, but
yeah, yeah.
finding old world moose jaw, it's a little tougher, right? Video footage from 1911 moose jaw or something, that's tougher.
We'll have to do Moose Jaw later in the year too. We'll keep that one in mind.
Yeah, based solely on the name itself, just
Yeah,
conjures up so many questions and so many curiosities, right?
yeah,
And Saskatchewan's great. I love Saskatchewan. It gets a bad rap for being flat and boring and nothing going on, but trust me, lots going on in Saskatchewan.
yeah. Yeah, my channel, I'm about to hit 1 million total views, which is cool.
Wow, good
Yeah,
for
and
you.
almost 200 videos now. I'm just about to just pass that threshold as well. And it's funny because the view counts and everything, it looks like it's algorithmed consistently to the bell curve is identical in every video I put out. So I'm sure there's a rhythm to that, but I'm not going to be dissuaded by any sort of shadow banning or any of that kind of stuff. I'm just going to keep putting out content and because I enjoy it, because I think people need to see these things for one, and then I'll share my perspective as well. So I'm going to keep
Yeah,
doing
I
that.
think it's really important. I tend not to get too hung up on things like views and likes, and
Yeah,
I mean I do ask people to like, and if they're considering subscribing, I do ask people to subscribe. But the only time I really do that is on my live streams. I don't do it for every video because people know.
yeah,
They hear it in every other video. Oh, like, subscribe, blah, 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 right? So,
yeah,
I mean, they
yeah,
know.
yeah,
But for me, it just every little bit helps at this stage because my channel is still growing. So if I can do things like upload content consistently, and really for me, the subscriber counts, it's more of a benchmark. Like I'm creeping up on 1,500, and once that hits, I'm just waiting for that just as an excuse to just do another meetup. Not
yeah,
that I need an excuse, but it's just kind of fun to acknowledge all the help and support that the subscribers and viewers have shown by
yeah,
saying, well, the least I could do is organize something, do a special long format walkabout style video where we look at an entire neighborhood. And if there's some locals that are subscribers that want to meet up with me and we do it together and then, grab a bite to eat afterwards,
mhm,
and chit chat and get to know each other in the real world. That's really what it's all about. So it's
mhm.
it's meeting people online, meeting people in real life, and getting this out there, like you said. You should plug your book, by the way. Speaking of getting it out there,
My um,
books.
yeah,
Sorry.
the links in the on my channel. I have two books: 101 Demolished Buildings in North America, and another 101 Demolished Buildings in North America. And it's just really it's a coffee table style book with 101 visuals, different buildings that
Yeah,
no longer stand. That
yeah,
most people are very surprised to see that don't know. You know.
that's right. I was telling you. Well, you sent me the books, which I appreciate. Thank you.
Mhm.
And I brought when I got the first one, your first, the part one, basically.
Mhm.
I brought it to work, and there was a couple of people. Well, what are you looking at? Oh, that's pretty neat. And then I may have mentioned to you, and I know I mention it a lot on my channel. I work with a Freemason.
Mhm.
And he was really like, oh yeah, and there was one building in there that he was like, oh, I know that building. The Masons built it. Like, I think he said we built that building. And I thought, oh, really? You don't say there, buddy. See, then I gifted one to Vincent there, my buddy, cousin Vinny.
Mhm.
So he says, hey, Chris, your book made a normie's eyebrows go up. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I don't know how they can't really. It's just a collection. All I did was put it into a collection really for people to, and that's the idea. Is like these things actually existed, and it gets people questioning the backstory, which is what I'm trying to do with the channel. So, and it was a way for people to get a hard copy that people that refuse to search online would be forced with it. When looking at the book on your coffee table, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and founded. That's right. Founded or found in most cases. That's right. Yes, free masonry. Oh, it's funny how the play on words there, right?
Mhm.
Well, my man, I'm gonna let you go here so you can get some food in you. And it's Sunday, so I'm sure you're gonna be messing around with the family today too, as well, right? Got some family stuff planned.
Yeah, got to get some groceries, get ready for the school week coming, and all the rest of it. So, yeah, it's been a slice. It's been a slice, as they say.
Oh, always a good time, my friend. Always a good time. And you always bring fabulous, mouth-watering photos to the table. Greatly appreciated. And like you said, sometimes it's harder to find stuff than other towns or cities, depending. But you know, you still kicked in the doors with that folder.
Yeah, and your segment I enjoyed as well a lot too. The backstory, you really painted a really nice picture of early Nelson. I thought was really I liked I liked the format. That works. That works for sure.
Yeah, I like this format too. I think we've really got it kind of locked in really nicely.
Best show ever.
Absolutely, that's right.
roll it.
Oh man, you're making me crack up. I choked on my own spit. I started coughing and you got me laughing. I choked on my own spit.
Hey, are we still
I
on
started
the air?
panicking. I had to mute the mic for a second here.
Are people still listening to us?
Well, you know, it's not only the Canucklehead show. I think we have a lot of Canuckleheads in the chat,
Yes.
and not just by meaning Canadians. Just a great bunch. I think you and I are both lucky with our channels. We have a great bunch, good sense of humor, but still very intelligent and very inquisitive-minded folks. So it's this show is just picture perfect for all of that. So yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And with that, I think that's going to do it for Canucklehead Show episode 11, Nelson, BC. So thank you once again, everybody, for all of your support. Please don't forget to support myself and Chris, Old World Exploration, on our respective channels. And thanks to everybody in the chat. It was great spending a little bit of Sunday morning / maybe early afternoon for some of you. Really, really appreciate that. And of course, don't forget to do all the things, right? The thumbs ups and leave a comment or give us a suggestion for another topic or another city or town. Always love to hear from everybody. I know Chris is very open to meeting and communicating with people behind the scenes as well. So you got a couple of stereotypical friendly Canadian boys here, folks. All right. So thanks, everybody. Take care out there and have yourselves a good one. And we'll see you on the next one. All right. Take care, everyone.
Take off, you hosers.
I think that was like our best show ever.